happening, but there, you know, we could have a situation where the person is still inside and they're, like you said, trying to negotiate and trying to see what's going on, which is why we are not showing you active live videos right now. We do have a shot of law enforcement entering the building, and we do know that there's smoke. So this active shooter could still be inside, and we need to let them to get, you know, do their job and try to get to as many people as they can and try to stop this situation from occurring. But there is an early childhood center inside, and of course that's going to be a huge priority for law enforcement to make sure if there are children inside that they are getting to them as quickly as possible. So once again, a confirmed active shooter in West Bloomfield at Temple Israel. All schools, all houses of worship told to shelter in place. Please avoid the area. And once again, law enforcement offering additional security responses to other Jewish houses of worship, other temples and synagogues in the area, and different organizations being told, just lock down. Do not let anybody in.
Yeah, other, like you said, other synagogues in the area. So this isn't just isolated to West Bloomfield Township. This is throughout Southeast Michigan, that places of worship, in particular places that identify as Jewish, are being told to lock their doors, do not let anybody in, because at this point we don't know why this is happening. We don't know if it was targeted because of a particular person inside of Temple Israel, or if this was just a hate crime, like you said, Heather. At this point, a lot is still unfolding, but what we do know is that there's an active shooter being reported at Temple Israel. We have seen that huge plume of smoke coming out of the top of the building in this area. Very heavy police presence. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with the area, it's located on Walnut Lake Road and Drake Road. Walnut Lake Road is where that main entrance is to get in and out of the temple. At this point, that area has been completely blocked off by police officers with the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, with the West Bloomfield Township Police Department. A very heavy police presence at this scene as we continue to wait and we continue to work our sources, work our phones, send our crews out to the area. We have multiple reporters and photographers heading out to that area right now to try to get as much information as possible and try to get some sort of sense of what is happening here. Are there any injuries? Is this still a threat to our community?
Absolutely. And once again, Bloomfield Hills schools, West Bloomfield schools, all reminding parents via text message that they all the students are safe. They're just asking, they have everyone in lockdown. These are nearby districts to where Temple Israel is located. But the students and teachers are safe. They are just asking them to stay in lockdown until we know more about what is happening here. But again, we have Chopper 7 at the scene, and we just want to keep reminding people that we've not been showing you live images on purpose because this law enforcement operation is still underway. Again, we saw smoke, we saw emergency vehicles, and as soon as we know more about whether or not there were any injuries, of course we will let you know. But again, as we've been saying, we have to let law enforcement do their job. Their number one priority is keeping everybody safe.
Now, about a mile south of here is actually West Bloomfield, or Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital. So it's a very large hospital in the area. A lot of people go to that hospital. So you would think if there were any people injured that they would end up at that hospital. We have reached out to Henry Ford, their spokesperson, saying at this time they don't have any information to pass along to us, but telling us to keep in contact with them. I'm sure if there are injuries and people end up at that hospital, they too are going to be very busy. The nurses, the doctors, trying to save and preserve life.
Absolutely. No, most of the trauma centers around the area will have already been alerted about this, and they'll be ready and prepared if there are injuries for them to be received. You know, and we saw this, you know, with other, unfortunately, again, former active shooting situations in this area. People go to multiple different locations, multiple different hospitals, and so everybody will be on standby and ready to respond because they train for this, they're ready for it. They don't want to be, but they're ready for it.
And unfortunately, they're far too common in our area.
Yes, as we've been talking, we've had just, I mean, we've just covered so many in the past
In
few
several years. You know, we had the Oxford High School shooting. We had the shooting at the University, Michigan State University. The Rochester Hills splash pad was not too long ago. I remember doing an interview with Sheriff Michael Bouchard saying that unfortunately they're all too familiar, and that was at the time of the splash pad shooting. And here we are, you know, months later, and we're going through this again. And Heather, you brought up a good point. In particular, Oakland County.
Yes.
We're seeing a lot of this.
Yeah, and obviously every time this happens, it's traumatizing for the community. It's traumatizing for families and people who've been connected to the past shootings. And it's also traumatizing for law enforcement. I mean, when they're some of the things that they've had to see in the past couple of years. I mean, obviously they know they have to deal with difficult things in their jobs, but these are pretty horrific things that they have to then go handle and witness and be a part of, and to keep happening over and over and over again. We have some new video now. Again, this is not live because, again, we do not want to be showing the active law enforcement operation, but we will. This is some different video. You can still see the smoke there coming out. Looks like from a couple different places in the building. You can see several fire trucks. You can see ambulances.
EMS.
Yeah, and you can see there's a playground there. So that is potentially, it looks like there's people that were coming out of that door right there to some first responders.
You can see the smoke actually from the door billowing out of that entryway from the door. Not only are we seeing that smoke on the roof, but we're seeing heavy smoke coming out of the entryway, one of the entryway doors of the synagogue. So this just goes to show, you know, something has got to be going on in there, some sort of fire.
That looks like a very active fire.
It does.
It's a big building, so obviously it doesn't look like it's billowing yet, but it's with the way it's coming out of the side there, it definitely would appear that multiple locations inside are likely on fire. That is stronger smoke than what we saw earlier. So again, these, you know, we've been showing these images in a little bit of a delay because, again, we're trying to protect the law enforcement, what they're doing and how they're doing it, because you don't want to be providing all of that information just yet. But there is clearly smoke coming out of that, and that was very clearly smoke coming out of where there was a playground, so potentially that early childhood center was right there. But hopefully they were able to get everybody out and out of the area.
Of course, that's what we're hoping. If you're just joining us, we have confirmed an active shooter at Temple, Israel. So this is in West Bloomfield Township on the corner of Walnut Lake and Drake Road. This is a look from the scene from earlier where we are seeing smoke coming out of the roof of the synagogue. We saw smoke coming out of the side entryway, one of the side doors there. We have seen people coming in and out of the building, law enforcement coming in and out of the building. You can also see a fire truck nearby. It looks like their ladder has been extended upward in this area, likely responding to the fire in this area. We're also taking a look at that parking lot, of course, as we've mentioned, that very large and very heavy police response in that area. Not a lot of cars in the parking lot. I mean, I think that's, you know, important to note here. And as we continue to learn more, what we're still working to learn, are there any injuries? That is something that we are working to learn at this point. We are still working to learn if there is still a threat in the community. Is that active shooter still inside the synagogue? Has that active shooter left the area? Now, as a precaution, area schools have been placed on lockdown. Nearby businesses are also being placed into lockdown. So this is a very serious situation in West Bloomfield Township.
It is, and again, we did mention that there's an early childhood center at Temple Israel. It looks like, according to their website, they provide child care, early childhood development, and a kindergarten program. So again, we don't know their hours. We don't know if there are children inside or exactly what has occurred here, but this, again, an active shooter confirmed at Temple Israel with smoke coming out of the building in multiple places. Clearly there is a fire in potentially multiple places inside, but you can definitely see lots of response from both firefighters, other first responders, emergency responders, as well as law enforcement. They are all over this building right now, and they are, I'm sure, trying to get as many people out and to try to, arrest the shooter if that person is still inside. Again, we don't know what their motive may have been, but it is a house of worship, and unfortunately, as we've been talking about in our country, we have seen a rise in anti-Semitism in recent years, and if that is what motivated whatever this was, that is just absolutely tragic, and I'm sure there will be a massive response from our community as well as from law enforcement.
And not only, we have mentioned that the schools are in lockdown, nearby businesses are in lockdown, but also other Jewish synagogues within Metro Detroit are being told, lock your doors. At this point, we don't know exactly what's going on. We don't know exactly what's happening. So we don't know if Temple Israel was targeted just based on the people that may have worked there, or if this is a hate crime. And if this is a hate crime, that could be targeting other synagogues within our area. Heather, as you mentioned, our political climate right now is just so intense.
It's so fraught. It's
yes.
so fraught, and unfortunately the divisions just continue to grow, and we've just seen this, situation with a lot of religious hate happening. We saw it with the church attack in Genesee County, and now we have a potential attack. Well, we have some kind of attack on this. We don't know the motivation behind it. Yes. We have an attack here on Temple Israel. So, this is just a long-standing religious institution in our community, and as you said, it's a very, well-attended, very popular place. They have an education system here. They've got their early childhood center. We've got some crews on the scene, and we're going to be trying to get to them as soon as we can. Obviously, what happens with these situations is because law enforcement needs to close down roads and close down, so that they can do their job. It's always tough to get close, get information, but our reporters are excellent at what they do, and they're going to try to get as close as they can and to try to give us a sense of what they're learning on the ground. Again, law enforcement can't really communicate that much with us yet because they are so busy handling the situation.
Absolutely. And Heather, as you mentioned, our crews on the ground, we actually have 7 News Detroit reporter Jolie Sherman just arriving on scene. Jolie, what are you seeing?
Yeah, just this massive police presence here in West Bloomfield. On my way here, there were just dozens of police vehicles from various law enforcement agencies. I saw state police. I'm seeing Ferndale police here. You can see just this massive police presence here. I'm wondering if I turn the video this way, you guys can see it. I actually parked in a neighborhood and I'm walking. I had to walk. There was just no way to get to Temple Israel by car. I had to pull over into a neighborhood, and I'm now walking on foot to get as close as I can to the scene. All we know so far is that police have confirmed this was an active shooting. Other places of worship in this area are in shelter in place, as well as other area businesses. They do tell the public to avoid this area while they try and gather as much information as possible. So you can kind of tell I'm a little out of breath. I'm trying to get there as fast as I can, trying to get as close to the scene as I can. We still don't have a lot of information as to what's going on inside the building. I have not gotten to the building just yet, but as you know, I'm trying to get there as quickly as I can. Sending things back over to you guys.
Now, Jolie, if you don't mind me asking you a quick question, I know you're trying to walk and get as close to the scene. Please be careful when you do so. But if you can safely tell us, I'm not sure if you're able to point your screen and just show a look of the road. What road are you on? And what is that police presence like? Because as you're walking by, we are seeing police car after police car after police car.
Yeah, it's exactly that. I wonder if you can see right behind me.
Yeah.
Stopping for a moment just to show you. What we're looking at is just police car after police car, and that's what it was. On the way here, there were numerous. I had to constantly pull over to let law enforcement through. Just one car after another racing to get here. And you can see, I'll show you again, just all these cars piled up, massive police presence. As you can see, it just goes all the way down here.
And Jolie, we're actually taking another look, a different vantage point of that massive police presence as our crews start to arrive on scene. We now have one of our photographers on the scene. Heather.
Wow, that's a sea of lights there. And it's, I mean, again, just, flashbacks to Oxford of just how, as Jolie was saying, everybody just pulled over to let them go because everybody responded and everybody clearly is responding. You can see Michigan State Police. You can see, I can't even name all the agencies that are there. Probably every single agency in Oakland County is probably there right now. And that is just an unbelievable response. But we know that's what's necessary, unfortunately, because we have to respond to these active shooting situations. Jolie, thank you so much for hiking all the way over there. Yeah. Again, we want you to stay safe. We want all our crews to stay safe. But that is just a massive sea of police vehicles there as everybody is rushing to help. Everybody is going to respond to this. Again, we have a confirmed active shooter in West Bloomfield at Temple Israel. All schools and houses of worship are being told to shelter in place. Everyone is being asked to avoid the area, again, because, you probably can't even drive on any of those roads right now because all of these vehicles are there and they're probably stopping traffic. But again, just, please help law enforcement if you don't need to be in the area, just do not go anywhere near there, please.
And we actually do have 7 News Detroit reporter Randy Wimbley just arriving to the scene moments ago. Randy, if you're able to, where are you at? What are you seeing?
Yeah, just a massive gathering of onlookers, bystanders, and obviously the massive police presence in first responders here behind me. Fire departments, Metro Parks Police, West Bloomfield Fire, SP.
All right, it looks like we're having
10 minutes ago. Oh, am I back up? Again, a massive police presence here. I'm seeing Waterford Police, West Bloomfield Police. And just a few moments ago, I actually noticed a woman walking up, obviously a concerned look on her face. She was on the phone, and police just allowed her to walk through the scene towards Temple Israel. So it's possible that that young woman that I saw a few moments ago may have a family or someone perhaps who was there, knows someone who was at the scene when this all happened. Again, a confirmed active shooting situation over at Temple Israel. Massive first responder presence in response to this situation. Oakland County Sheriff's Office also responding here, as well as other institutions, schools, and the like. There's police presence there. As we were coming up, I want to say over on Drake or Haggerty Road, we saw a Farmington Hills Police Department police officer posted up at the Jewish Community Center, not too far from this location. Right now, we're over on Drake and Walnut Lake, just beyond Israel. Again, massive police presence. We are not getting much from West Bloomfield Police. Obviously, they're responding to what's going on here, but hoping to get some more information, preliminary information on what happened here.
Now, Randy,
and guys, I don't know if you can see that. Real quick.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's now a Bearcat, a SWAT team vehicle that's rolling through. You can see it now, John. You want to get a shot of that? That is a SWAT team. I want to say it's West Bloomfield PD. They are making their way inside. Also, just you can see a guy getting kitted up or grabbing his helmet from the back of this SUV here. FBI on this plate carrier. And looks to be someone from, a SWAT team or fast response sort of team. But again, a SWAT team from what I believe to be West Bloomfield PD. They just arrived here on the scene in that Bearcat, that heavily armored vehicle, just beyond us here.
Randy, that may suggest that obviously this individual or individuals, we don't know for sure, are still clearly inside potentially and potentially still causing problems inside. So if SWAT's just going in now, that's obviously they've got to wait and get situated, but that could mean this person or people are still inside and still causing some damage.
Yeah, and we did see what appeared to be smoke coming from Temple Israel. You know, that smoke was coming from not only the top of the building, but coming out of the side of the building, out of an entryway door as well. And just this massive response to the area. You know, we talked to Jolie Sherman just moments ago. She said that it was just such a heavy police response as she was trying to make her way to the scene that she actually had to hop out of her car and go on foot, try to walk along the sidewalk here to get to this area. We're taking a look at this intersection right now where you can see we've got police blocking off roads, police officer walking very heavily armed in this area as they continue to respond to an active shooter.
Yes, and we've got our Brett Cass there. He is getting close to the scene. Brett, what can you tell us from your vantage point?
But now we're being pushed back by law enforcement here towards another temple. But you can see here, this is Walnut Lake Road. Just take a look at the number of police cars. We've seen unmarked cars. We've seen Michigan State Police. We've seen Oakland County Sheriff. We've seen departments from across Oakland County and beyond here responding to this active incident, again, at Temple Israel. We were in the subdivision there that was directly behind where the temple is. And sorry, we are in the midst of walking and trying to move our equipment here as we were told to move to another temple down the road. But in that neighborhood, we had seen a number of police officers also armed, heavily armed throughout that neighborhood as well, which is directly behind where the temple is. You can see the large response from people in the neighborhoods walking out here to try to take a look and see what's going on. And again, just a massive number of law enforcement here on scene. So we're still trying to get more information as we can. And now I'm getting I don't know if you can hear that buzzing noise. We're getting an emergency alert on our phones to shelter in place from the West Bloomfield Police Department. And you can hear that on phones here throughout the area, but everyone's getting this alert just now from West Bloomfield Police, active shooter situation at Temple Israel to shelter in place. And with that, I think I've lost my IFB line as well because the alert shut it off. But again, we are still trying to follow and learn exactly what we can here about what is going on at Temple Israel. But we do know there's an active shooter situation, both from police and also that alert we just got on our phones.
All right, thank you, Brett. Obviously, stay safe. We know you're going to need to move because obviously that's what happens when law enforcement needs to move in. They need to move everybody else back. As you can see, just this absolutely massive response.
And this response making its way all the way up nationally to the White House. FBI Director Kash Patel. We're going to
very early. Everything's preliminary. At least one individual came to the temple. Security saw him engage. Fire. The scene, we're not getting any active stimulus at the moment. We have everything here that we need, including, medics and tactical gear. We're looking to see if there's more than one person. We're still trying to figure that out. We're trying to get access to the video. At the moment, we have people that shelter in place for at least a mile area until we determine that there's no one else that maybe was on foot and fled the area. Exactly what's going on, number one. Number two, Reunification will be at the JCC, the Jewish Center, and that's where parents will go to pick up their kids. It's going to be secured by law enforcement, so no fear there. If you have nothing to do with the situation, don't go there. Don't come to the area. It's active and it's busy, and we're still trying to figure it out.
Guys, can you say anything about potential casualties? Anyone hurt?
Nobody at the moment has been confirmed to be hurt. Except potentially the shooter.
Any ties potentially to terrorism with the
That's
president?
still way early to talk about. We have no idea because we don't even know who the person is at the moment.
Has that person been neutralized?
We don't have that person in custody. So it's a work in progress. So that's why we're sheltering in place until we figure it out. It's a big facility with a lot of land around it. Until that gets secured and everybody's comfortable that there's no active threat in that spot, stay away from it, shelter in place.
We're told there's a daycare, preschool, all those kids out.
Yeah, everybody's been moved out of the school. We've got a ton of people here. As I said, West Bloomfield got on scene in a heartbeat. Everybody else came from everywhere. Actually, the chief and I have been communicating for almost 2 weeks. Every time I've gotten some intelligence from the national level, I've been sharing. We've been talking for 2 weeks about the potential, sadly, of this happening. So there was no lack of preparation. In addition, all Jewish facilities in the area are going to have a lot of extra presence around it until we figure this out.
What about the school of the left leg? Is it safe
Well, again, we would tell everybody to shelter in place.
Okay. Was there any security at this temple, as you mentioned?
Yes, there was.
Okay.
And they engaged the threat.
So there was one, the security guard, and
That's still a work in progress.
okay, and then shots were fired.
Shots were fired.
There were reports that somebody crashed with a vehicle into the building.
A vehicle was involved.
Did it reach the building?
We're going to get into more details when there's time for that, and the chief will lay out exactly, specifically what happened. But we just want everybody to kind of know what's happening. As we get it, more will come to you. Thank you.
Sheriff, will you come back here throughout the time?
Yes.
Or, yeah.
Whenever
Exact
the-
spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever
Great.
the chief believes.
Yeah.
It's time will come back.
Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so we just got done hearing from Sheriff Mike Bouchard on scene. We have learned that there were reports that there was an active shooter in the area that approached the building and that some security guards engaged with the shooter. Shots were fired. A car was involved at some point. It's still unclear how that car was involved. We did see plumes of smoke coming out of the synagogue from the roof and also from an entryway. Right now, they have not been able to locate that shooter. So that is why everything within a mile radius has been shut down in order to try to locate that shooter. Sheriff Michael Bouchard saying, of course, they are still actively working that situation, providing what information that he was able to.
Saying at least one person. It's not clear if there were additional people.
Yes,
but
at least one person.
Yes, but security saw him. They engaged with him. They said there's no active stimulus at the moment, which means they don't have contact with this person. So the question is, are they inside? Did they leave? What, they're trying to confirm all of that right now. But he did confirm that shots were fired. And again, like you said, there was a vehicle involved. We're just not sure exactly, how a vehicle was involved. But good news, no one at this point confirmed injured,
Yes.
Except the shooter, potentially, yes. And they did say that there's going to be a reunification spot at the JCC. There will be lots of police presence there. And the sheriff reminding, if you do not need to go to that area, please do not. He talked about a reunification spot for kids, which again, we talked about the early childhood center there, in a kindergarten program. Again, not clear exactly what was in session and what wasn't in session, but reunification spot at the JCC, and all Jewish facilities will have extra law enforcement presence
Security in place.
today.
Yeah, and it's not only law enforcement that has been sending out that warning, it's other Jewish organizations within that area that has sent out this warning. And Heather, this situation making its way all the way up to the White House, FBI Director Kash Patel sending out a tweet not too long ago. FBI personnel are on the scene with partners in Michigan and responding to an apparent vehicle ramming and active shooter situation outside of Temple Israel Synagogue in West Bloomfield Township, Michigan. So FBI Director Kash Patel confirming that there is an active shooter and some sort of vehicle ramming, and confirming that, yes, the FBI is on scene as well as local agencies.
And right now we've got retired MSP Captain Harold Love on the phone with us. Harold, it's unfortunately we're talking to you again when we have an active shooter situation. You were in law enforcement for many, many years. Talk to us about what is likely happening right now with officers as they respond to this.
Well, yes. Nobody says it better than Sheriff Bouchard, by the way. I'm glad that he's out there on the scene and giving firsthand accounts of what's going on. But with officers, they're following directions and instructions by the incident commander. Definitely, you can see that they've set up a perimeter, and of course they're doing their small squad tactics and searching the entire compound to ensure that that the shooter is contained and eventually either taken into custody or taken down. But yes.
I don't know if you could see in the video, we could see smoke coming out of Temple Israel. And as we've been talking about, we had the church attack earlier it was last year technically, in Grand Blanc. So talk to us about, some of this evolution of these attacks where people not only maybe engage with firearms, but they also then potentially, again, it's unclear exactly what happened here, but, fires are set, creating further problems for law enforcement as they respond, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously they're looking to, cause, maximum damage If they can't get to as many people with a firearm, then what other resources are they bringing with them to be able to cause as much damage as possible? That's what it appears to me. Of course, nobody can get into the mindset of these individuals who do these things, but yeah, setting fire to a building, it traps people in. It inhibits people's ability to get out, and also inhibits law enforcement who are responding to be able to see clearly what's going on inside, and it kind of gives them an advantage if they're still inside.
Now, Mr. Love, we are also learning that that shooter has in some capacity left the scene, or they are still looking for that shooter. At this point, he is unaccounted for. I know a lot of resources are being thrown at this. What kind of insight can you give to us as far as what police are doing right now to make sure that that gunman is found?
Well, as you can see, there's a sea of police cars who have responded to the scene. But you can bet that there are perimeters being set up at different distances from the scene. I'm sure there are helicopters in the air. There are K-9 officers out trying to establish a track or a scent from the building and the perimeter outside. So all the resources at our disposal have been deployed there, it appears. And they're doing everything that they possibly can. Also interviewing people to get any witnesses' accounts of what happened or what the shooter may look like, and doing their best to try to identify who this person is so they can intensify the hunt to track him down, whether it be inside the complex or outside if he's already escaped.
Talk to us about the importance of training as we see this massive response, and from all your years at MSP. I mean, how important is training when it comes to being ready to respond to incidents like this?
Oh, it's very important, and most agencies train together, local departments, sheriff's offices, and state police. We have tactics that have been developed to be able to go in and quickly search a building or a complex such as this, and search it in a very tactical manner that enables them to cover every inch of the building in a safe manner, and neutralize any threat that may present itself as they're doing their searches. And of course, knowing that through incident command there's somebody in charge, and you can bet that there's a unified incident command center that's been set up there, so that every type of emergency responder, whether it be fire, police, federal law enforcement, they're being given instructions and communicating through a central source there.
Now, Mr. Lev, are you able to speak just to what these police officers are going through right now? This is not our first active shooter, unfortunately, in Oakland County in Southeast Michigan. We've seen a lot of these over the last several years. But can you speak to just the trauma of having to respond to yet again another active shooter?
Yeah. Right now, everybody's operating on, a high level of adrenaline, doing what they've trained to do almost automatically, going in and doing what they have to do to save lives or make the scene safe. Of course, there's always a concern that you're going to encounter a shooter, or you're going to come across someone who's been, injured or killed, and that's always devastating for an officer to see. But right now, again, everybody's in that mode of taking care of business and getting things done the way they've been trained to do it. It's after the fact when the adrenaline, goes down, and we're starting to process and think about what happened and what has happened. That's when, the intrusive thoughts start coming in, and, the different emotions that officers experience, whether it be anger, sadness, fear, depending on what they're going to see at the scene. We don't know just yet, but right now you can bet that everyone is in, hyper activity mode and doing what they can to resolve this situation.
All right, Harold Love, retired captain from Michigan State Police, thank you so much for all of your insight with this active shooter situation at Temple Israel. We'll have you stand by for a moment. We're going to go now to Brett Cast, who is live at the scene.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. We're pretty much in a subdivision almost right behind. We can see the Temple Israel right behind us there. Found Sheldon here, one of the neighbors. So, Sheldon, you were home when this all happened. What did you and your family hear?
So my wife was home, and She was cleaning the bathroom upstairs and she heard sirens coming in and out. She was like, "What is that?" She heard a couple fireworks sounds. She called me. She said, "You know, I don't know if it's gunshots or something." And then after that, I was like, I have to come home. Drove home, and this is all that happened.
Gotcha. So you were out and your wife was home.
Yeah, I was at work.
You coming home, how challenging was that with all the police in the area?
Oh, there was so many cop cars with different cities and everything. Honestly, all my friends were texting me, "Is everything okay? Is everything okay?" And you know, that's what happens. Yeah.
And your neighborhood pretty much backs up to the temple right here. So did people escape from the temple into this neighborhood?
Right. So I think with these 2 houses or those 3 houses or something, I guess they took some kids in and some teachers, but the other neighbors were telling me that they were okay. So hopefully that's the case.
Because we saw some buses just in this neighborhood a few minutes ago. Looked to have been loading up some kids to maybe take to another location, probably to reunite with family, I'm assuming. But again, so you've been kind of out here. What have you seen, I guess, since you've been standing here? And
honestly, just cops, ARs, different people with different uniforms from different cities, of course. Now these buses pulled up, and thank God they got some teachers and the kids, out of there at least.
And did your wife say she saw any kids in the neighborhood or anyone leaving the temple?
She said she saw a little bit of kids running, but nothing too crazy. She said she heard them crying, stuff that the kids would say if they were scared.
Well, Sheldon, thank you for talking to us and for sharing, this experience from your perspective, being so close again to the temple. I'm glad you're safe. I'm glad your neighbors are safe. But again, they're urging people to shelter in place right now because of the situation that is still ongoing at Temple Israel. But we saw those buses that were just in this neighborhood and it seemed to have taken kids somewhere else here away from this location. But we did see different police armed officers that were outside some of the homes here, seemingly kind of keeping an eye out in front of those homes. So that was obviously what we saw when the buses pulled up. But for now, those buses have gone to another location.
All right, that was Brett Kast's report. All right, Brett, thank you so much. And just to reiterate, yes, there is an early childhood education center inside of the synagogue. The sheriff telling us that everyone is accounted for at this point. There's no injuries to anyone inside of the building. Those children have been taken to the nearby Jewish Community Center. So if parents, as you can imagine, absolutely terrified to hear this, you can be reunited with your child at the Jewish Community Center, as well as the area is going to be in lockdown. The area is going to be secured with enforcement. We have police officers from all over Oakland County. Jolie Sherman saying she even saw a police officer from the city of Ferndale. Michigan State Police are on scene. The FBI is on scene, continuing to monitor the situation. We were told that there was some sort of encounter with the security guard and the active shooter, but at this point, everything is still on lockdown because they want to make sure that this was an isolated encounter and that there's no one else involved in this area. And they're still trying to locate that person that could be responsible for this. So a very active situation.
Very active. That person could still be inside. And again, we talked about law enforcement response, because of the fire, and we don't know was like an explosive device used, it could have ATF will probably potentially likely be involved as well. Again, just not clear yet about injuries. At first information, Sheriff Bouchard saying they don't know of any, but again, this is still a bit early, but fortunately that is good news so far if that's where things stand, and hopefully it continues that way. And it was good to hear from the neighbor there that they saw so many kids getting away since there is a school there. Let's check in now with Simon.
Yeah, Heather, Allie, we're just several hundred yards east of Temple Israel. The street right over there is Greenbrier. You can see some of those buses there. Those buses are parked next to a mobile command center from the Oakland County Sheriff's Office that pulled up here just in the last few minutes as we were here. Deputies describing the scene to us as very dynamic when we arrived. We went about as far as those buses are now, and then they've asked us to pull back, and we're being asked to move yet again in a short period of time. I just want to give you a sense of the scope and the size of this scene. If we look over here, and I'm just going to take a couple steps to my left, this scene of police vehicles from all neighboring departments goes back about a half a mile, and we do see officers carrying long guns, firearms, that have been heading toward that direction. You can see there is still a lot of police activity out here. We're still waiting to get what would be more of an official update in person from the police chief or another point of contact from law enforcement. We have seen some people exiting off of those buses at the same time, but if we swing back this way, it is just a very active scene, as you've been talking about, as you've been sharing the updates from the sheriff. We're continuing to see law enforcement ask folks to back up, and we're going to probably have to exit this area here shortly as they're setting up another staging area here nearby. I want to send it back to you now.
All right. Thank you so much, Simon. Let's go now on the phone. We have Andy Arena, the former head of the FBI in Detroit. He's going to be joining us in just a moment. But once again, we have an active shooter situation. It is unclear if the shooter has been neutralized. It is unclear if the shooter is still inside Temple Israel. This is happening in West Bloomfield. We have neighboring religious institutions, neighboring school districts, all on lockdown right now. There's, as you can see there, a massive law enforcement presence. Number of injuries are not known as of right now, but we have a massive federal response, local response. We saw Michigan State Police. We saw Metro Parks Police. We saw some parents, potentially what could be parents, kind of running around through there. There is a school, a early childhood center at Temple Israel. We spoke to a neighbor, though, who said they saw lots of children getting out and getting away. So that is great news. There's a reunification center at the JCC, the Jewish Community Center. Again, Sheriff Bouchard telling everybody, if you do not need to go to the JCC, please do not. It's going to be a very fraught, hectic situation there as parents try to reunite with their children. So please do not go there if you don't need to. But that is where parents should go if your children were at Temple Israel. Once again, you can see we've got fire trucks, we've got ambulances there, and we've got law enforcement, SWAT team. Everybody has surrounded this building and is trying to figure out exactly what has occurred here.
Now, the sheriff also confirming that they are amping up security at other religious institutions throughout Oakland County just as a precaution. We can see that pretty heavy police presence there. It looks like we have police officers with long guns just outside of the building. This is a different vantage point where we can see police. We have seen FBI agents walking through this area, combing through this area. You can see they have their vests on. We also have a SWAT truck driving through this area. What's unclear at this point is a motive. Why was this temple targeted? That is something that they're trying to figure out. They're also trying to figure out if there was anyone else involved in this active shooter situation, whether there is any type of potential threat, because we do want to reiterate the point that the shooter has not been arrested at this point. That is why so many area businesses, homes in the area being told, please shelter in place, do not leave your home, be safe. It's always best to use extra precaution in a situation like this.
Absolutely. And we're getting some information from some of our ABC sources that there's some preliminary information that this was an intentional vehicle ramming of the synagogue. That's according to sources briefed on the investigation, telling ABC News. According to sources, the vehicle was seen steering around security bollards. That's why the security personnel immediately engaged the driver. As you heard Sheriff Bouchard talking earlier, that they engaged with the driver, but again, it's unclear why there's so much smoke that's coming from the building. So unclear if they were able to still breach the building, get inside, if there was some kind of explosive device. Again, we saw with the Grand Blanc situation, you know, that the truck came in and then there were, you know, the fire ensued from there, sadly trapping people. So hopefully this was not a copycat of that, but if it was, then, you know, potentially they were able to mitigate the damage from this.
And earlier, Chopper 7 was over the synagogue, and we could see a lot of smoke coming from the top of the synagogue, coming out of an entranceway of the synagogue. And it was very sad to see, because we could also see the playground for the child center, you know, for the early daycare center. So, you know, children were inside at the time that this happened. Now, thank goodness we're not getting any reports of any injuries at this point. Again, like you said, Heather, this is very preliminary information, but the sheriff saying at this point, not getting any reports of injuries, and that the children have been taken to the nearby Jewish Community Center to be reunited with parents. But this is a massive police presence at the synagogue right now, because there's still a lot of unanswered questions as to what took place here around 12:30 this afternoon at Temple Israel.
Absolutely. Again, as you said, we saw, no reports of injuries yet, and neighbors were able to tell us that they saw a lot of kids in the neighborhood getting away.
Yes.
The reunification point, once again, at the JCC. So if you need to get reunified with your children, you should go to the JCC. We are now going to go to Andy Arena, former head of the FBI here in Detroit. And Andy, unfortunately, we have seen so many of these sad, horrific situations occur in recent months and years here in Michigan. What can you tell us about what law enforcement is dealing with right now?
Well, it's a day we certainly hope we wouldn't see, but, unfortunately, I'm certainly not shocked by this attempt. So, I think right now, obviously neutralizing that individual, that site now turns into a crime scene. I mean, obviously it looks like they've gotten everybody out. They've neutralized the target, so they've got to just basically get the evidence there and identify this individual. And from there, they've got to see, who are their co-conspirators, what was his motive, executing search warrants at residences, social media activity, exploiting his electronic devices. There's a lot of work that's got to be done very quickly.
What kinds of training do federal agents have to go through for dealing with these religious hate crimes? And obviously we've got a very fraught situation internationally right now. What kinds of things are FBI agents and other federal agents taught to be able to handle and investigate these kinds of situations?
Well, I think it starts, and I'm very familiar with this location. It's a very large campus, but they have invested, and I've done some training out there myself, but they have invested a lot of money and a lot of time into security. So it's a pretty high-profile security location. The law enforcement response, they train for this. What the FBI will bring is obviously, the counterterrorism, hate crime type of investigative experience. So, they're certainly trained in this at all different levels. But as I said, I think it really starts with security. I think this is a testament that it worked.
Now, Andy, we saw the use of a vehicle being rammed into the church at Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc Township. Now we are seeing this again. ABC News confirming with their sources that a vehicle was seen steering around the bollards, and that is why security immediately engaged with the driver of that vehicle. Are we seeing an uptick in these kind of crimes? Active shooters, unfortunately, in our area have become far too common, but it feels like the use of these vehicles being used is just an additional layer here that seems relatively new.
Well, I think it's been out there for many years. The vehicle becomes a weapon, right? It's a 3,000-pound weapon, and it can be used as a weapon or as a breaching tool. So, what this individual is trying to do here will certainly, I think, kind of figure out as we go through his electronic footprint. But I don't think it's anything new. I think that maybe in our area, but it's something we've seen for many, many years across the country, across the world.
If the shooter is deceased and they do find that there's potentially co-conspirators that planned this attack, is that something that could be potentially federal charges because we're talking about hate crime in a religious institution?
Yeah, definitely. And I think right now you don't want to make the mistake, or at least the law enforcement doesn't want to make the mistake of focusing in on one potential motive. They want to look at every possibility here, but that is certainly one of them. It could be just some crazy person who, watching social media, watching what's going on in the world, decided to take matters into their own hands. So I think fairly quickly they're going to kind of paint a picture of this individual, and because that's the biggest issue right now is, are there other co-conspirators out there, other potential targets?
Absolutely. Tell us what how hard is it for law enforcement to keep having to respond to these kinds of horrifically tragic active shooter situations?
Well, I think professionally it's what you're trained to do, but personally it does take a toll on you because of what you're seeing and what you're dealing with. Now, fortunately here, this is not thank God, not a mass casualty event, but when you do respond to those, it certainly can wear on you.
Absolutely. All right, Andy Arena, former head of the FBI here in Detroit, with so many years of law enforcement experience. We really appreciate your insights as we monitor this situation. If we could stand by for us for a minute, we do have a statement now from Governor Whitmer. Says, I am tracking reports of an active shooting at Temple Israel in West Bloomfield. We are working with Michigan State Police to get more information. This is heartbreaking. Michigan's Jewish community should be able to live and practice their faith in peace. Anti-Semitism and violence have no place in Michigan. I am hoping for everyone's safety. Thank you to law enforcement for their swift action.
And we've also heard from FBI Director Kash Patel. He posted on X, FBI personnel are on the scene with partners in Michigan and responding to an apparent vehicle ramming and active shooter situation outside of Temple Israel in West Bloomfield Township, Michigan, which of course adds up to what we've been seeing on the scene. We've seen multiple people with, FBI labeling on them. So this is not only being investigated by local agencies, but making its way up to the federal government because, Heather, a hate crime is a federal charge.
Yeah, absolutely can be. So let's get now to our Brett Cast. He has been on the scene for a little while. He's had to move locations a few times. Brett, tell us what you can see now from your new vantage point.
Yeah, Heather, we are in the driveway, or at least the backyard and driveway of a home here, kind of backing up to Temple Israel, and we can actually get a better vantage point look here. And this is where we've been told from neighbors that many of the kids who were at this, I believe you had said preschool earlier, had escaped here over this kind of this hill here into the neighborhood behind us. But you can see we have a pretty large law enforcement response here. We see an ambulance, fire trucks. We see another fire truck with a cherry picker over in the main parking lot. But we see a number of law enforcement agents here closer to the building. Even when we first walked up, we actually did smell some smoke here in the area, but that has since dissipated. So we've just seen kind of law enforcement keeping an eye on this building, gathering in front of this as they continue to monitor this situation. But again, this is probably the closest vantage point we've gotten because the road is so blocked off going to, down, I believe it was Maple Lane, all the way down to the temple here. So pretty large response here. And again, this is where we were told some of the kids were able to escape and take refuge inside some of the homes here until we saw the buses come through this neighborhood and take them to a reunification center. So police are still on scene here surrounding the temple, but this is probably the closest vantage point that we've gotten so far to the temple.
Massive response. You've got officers standing guard there on that berm, keeping everybody away from the scene right now. Once again, that reunification spot that Brett was mentioning, that's at the JCC. Sheriff Bouchard saying earlier, please, if you don't need to go there, do not go there. But if you did have a loved one that was inside Temple Israel, that is the reunification spot. That's the JCC. So please, head over there if you need to next.
And we actually have a statement from Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel. She's saying anti-Semitism has no place in Michigan and cannot be tolerated. In moments like these, it's more important than ever that we come together, stand with our neighbors, comfort hate whenever it appears, and build stronger communities.
So once again, an active shooter situation at Temple Israel. As Sheriff Bouchard was telling us earlier, this person approached and security engaged with them. When the sheriff was updating us earlier, he had said that there was no active stimulus at the moment, so meaning they were not actively engaging with the shooter at the time, so unclear whether that person was inside or if they had gotten away officially. We do know that he was saying that there were no injuries reported as of yet. Again, it is early, and we are hoping and praying that that continues to be the news that comes out of this, that nobody was hurt other than if this active shooter person was engaged and maybe they have been neutralized and are still there at the scene. Let's go live to our Simon Shaquette, who is at the scene as well.
Heather, you can see we've moved back just a couple hundred yards and still a very large presence here of law enforcement, all of those flashing lights. We do still see school buses at the end of that Greenbrier there on Walnut Lake Road. And then also you see some of the units, some of the people are leaving that area We're trying to gain more information as we speak. We heard Andy Arena talking about the amount of training that's happened at Temple Israel, the amount of preparation that they've done for worst case scenarios. Now, also I want to bring in Special Agent in Charge from the ATF, James Deere. Thanks for talking with us now, James. What more can you tell us about the role of the ATF? You talked about this being a DOJ all hands on deck situation.
Absolutely. ATF is leading the fight against violent crime, and when you look at this is a mass casualty, a potential mass casualty incident involving a fire, a burning vehicle, destruction to a temple by the vehicle, as well as a rifle that was involved. So we're going to bring our expertise to the table with our arson investigators. We've got certified arson investigators across the country. I've got 5 here in Michigan that are on scene right now. We've also got our certified bomb techs and our certified explosive experts on scene as well, just in case there's anything inside that vehicle.
Yeah, you talked about ensuring that your organization helps keep everyone safe at the same time, but also there's another additional role, an investigative role, in terms of tracing if this person used a firearm, as we've heard did occur. What are you hearing, and what will you guys do to track that down?
We're gonna assist the Michigan State Police and the FBI in that fire scene. We're going to recover the firearm that was involved in this, trace it to the very last purchaser of that firearm, where it was imported from, and try to determine how this individual became into possession of it.
Okay. Officially, we're getting reports that the suspect is deceased at this point. Is that something that you're able to verify as of now, or is that not something you've been told officially?
That's consistent reporting. That's consistent on everything that I've been told.
All right, and what happens from here on out? I know there's a lot of work to be done. You're going to be on scene here for quite some time.
We're going to be on scene with Michigan State Police, obviously, and this team of investigators that have been deployed here. And we're going to lead the fire investigation aspect of this and the violent crime aspect of it. And we're also going to help assist with the tracing of the firearm. And we're going to also put that gun in NIBIN and make sure that gun wasn't involved in any type of shootings across the Detroit metropolitan area. We've also got our explosive detection dogs on scene as well. So they're going to do a preliminary search of the structure and of the vehicle and make sure there are no explosive accelerants that have been used in this incident.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're clear also that you have been told that the shooter is deceased. That's consistent with what you've been hearing as well.
That's what I've been told.
Okay,
yes.
All right. SAC, thank you for taking time to talk with us. James Deere from the ATF here on scene, assisting with the fire investigation, the firearm investigation, and other aspects of what's going on out here. We'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Simon. This is Carolyn Clifford. I'm just now joining Heather Catalo in studio, covering this breaking news, of course, no longer an active shooter situation at Temple Israel, but that is what happened today, and we have just learned that that shooter is now deceased, and a large police presence, as you just saw behind Simon there. And the one thing that's really important for us to mention, police are asking parents to pick their children up at the Jewish Community Center, because there was a lot of kids at Temple Israel, and this is a big Jewish community in the West Bloomfield area, so I'm sure there are a lot of parents that are so on edge right now.
Absolutely terrifying. Again, though, great news so far in that we do not believe there have been any casualties, any reportable injuries as of right now. I want to mention, according to ABC News, when the vehicle drove into the synagogue, it caused the fire, because we've been talking about the smoke we've been seeing coming out of there. There are no known casualties at this point. The vehicle drove around a security ballard, crashed in the front doors, caught fire. Synagogue security, as the sheriff was telling us earlier, engaged with the vehicle. So no injuries from inside the building. So again, very fortunate. We did not know when we saw that smoke if an explosive device had gone off. It was in multiple areas. It was billowing out from where it looked like the early childhood center may have been, because it was right by the playground. So of course, you start to worry, could the fire have been set there?
And I think a lot of people harken back to September when that car rammed into that church in Grand Blanc Township, and he set off those explosives. Yeah. So I'm sure hearts dropped at that moment, but the good news is, again, the active shooter has now been killed, so we don't have to worry about that. And of course, as you said, ABC News reporting no casualties. A lot of parents, of course, concerned about their kids, as you know. And I think this whole area is on heightened alert because of the war in Iran right now. We just don't know what could happen, just
Absolutely.
like this happened so quickly.
Absolutely. And we've had, just recently as October, we had that thwarted potential terror situation. So, and there were things that happened in New York recently with these thwarted attacks. So everybody's on high alert. Sheriff Bouchard had mentioned that earlier, that, they've been getting alerts. And so, again, they're ready. They have to be ready. We've dealt with this so many times in the last couple of years here. So as you saw, this massive response, just hundreds of police vehicles there.
Lines of police vehicles along with the FBI and other police agencies jumping on board to make sure this community is safe. But good still
news.
just a frightening situation all the way around.
Absolutely. And we did not see the ambulance move, which is also great news in the sense that they weren't transporting people. So it's good to see them stationary and not taking people to the hospital.
Absolutely. And I know you and Allie got a chance to speak to Sheriff Bouchard earlier, and he is always on the scene whenever something like this happens, and we always like to hear his words of wisdom. So let's listen to him right now.
At least one individual came to the temple. Security saw him engage fire. The scene, we're not getting any active stimulus at the moment. We have everything here that we need, including, medics and tactical gear. We're looking to see if there's more than one person. We're still trying to figure that out. We're trying to get access to the video. At the moment, we have people that shelter in place for at least a mile area until we determine that there's no one else that maybe was on foot and fled the area. Back to what's going on, number one. Number two, reunification will be at the JCC, the Jewish Center, and that's where parents will go to pick up their kids. It's going to be secured by law enforcement, so no fear there. If you have nothing to do with
that's good that he is alerting the community that they are still looking, although the active shooter who drove that car into Temple, Israel, is now deceased. They're still going to look around to see if he was working with somebody else, if there's anyone in the area. And that's why you still see this large police presence. We can't say enough that all of the children are at the Jewish Community Center so parents can pick them up. And our whole team is on the scene. We have a number of our reporters, including Randy Wembley. Randy, I don't know where you are, but explain what you're seeing right now. On the scene. We have a number of our reporters, including Randy Wembley. Randy, I don't know where you are.
Go, Randy. Yeah, guys, we're over here at Drake and Walnut. You can see the presence behind me. This is the same spot where Sheriff Bouchard gave us a briefing about 30 or so minutes ago. A quick recap from some information you guys are already relaying that we're hearing from other sources as well. The suspect in this situation, that active shooter, now deceased when he drove up here. Security at Temple Israel engaged him, and he was later found deceased. Fire coming from the building. ATF investigating that aspect of that situation, as well as the firearm investigation. Again, a very large scene here. Police and law enforcement, they're asking parents to pick kids up over at JCC, which is right down the road on Drake here. We saw that there was a Farmington Hills police officer posted up there as we were making our way to this location where we are now. Again, still very much an active scene. This investigation still ongoing. Just literally about 2 minutes ago, I saw a woman walking from Temple Israel. She had a child in hand, or at least had just picked one up. Obviously a deeply concerned, frantic look on her face as she was walking down Drake Road and then across to this nearby shopping center. So seemingly just picking up her child that was probably in the daycare center or what have you over here at Temple Israel. That is still a major concern. There's another gentleman here right behind me. I tried to talk with him just a few moments ago, but he was in no mood to talk, clearly for obvious reasons. He has a child that is in there. And so a lot of very concerned parents, but what we heard from Sheriff Bouchard, no one who was in there, thankfully, no one was hurt. The only person deceased, that active shooter who was engaged by Temple Israel security. And so that is how things are looking at the moment. We're waiting for another briefing, likely by Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard, and not sure when that will happen, but he did say that he will come back out with an update at some point today. They're asking all parents to go over to JCC to pick up kids. That's going to be the Reunification site. Anyone who doesn't have any sort of connection to Temple Israel or what happened there, they're asking that you stay away from the JCC, let law enforcement and families reconnect with their loved ones there, and that police can continue to do their work as they wrap up, or rather continue this investigation. State, local, federal partners all involved in the probe of what happened here, and also seeing if there are any other accomplices, other people involved aside from that active shooter who is now dead. So I'm going to toss it back to you guys in the studio. We're live in West Bloomfield.
Randy, glad to have you out there on the scene as eyes and ears for us. And if you are just joining us here on Channel 7, it's about 2:18. Heather Catallo and Ali Hoxie covering this breaking news right from the beginning. I think it broke out right after noon, shortly after noon.
Yes.
And we just want to let you know, if you are just joining us and you have no idea what you are watching, we are following an active shooter situation. As you see right there, that active shooter is now dead. We learned that not too long ago, maybe 30 minutes ago. This happened at Temple Israel Synagogue in West Bloomfield Township. ABC sources say preliminary information is that this was an intentional vehicle ramming of the synagogue. And as Heather has been reporting, you saw smoke.
Lots of smoke.
And flames. Did you see flames coming
We
from
couldn't see
Temple
flames,
Israel?
but we saw a lot of dark smoke, and it was unclear at first, did somebody try to set fire because it was coming from multiple places. But now we're understanding, we have a better understanding now that when the vehicle got through into the building, that caught fire. And so that was causing the majority of the destruction because security was able to engage with the suspect, and we're being told that the shooter is dead. Of course, we don't know if there were other accomplices. We don't, of course, that's why they continue to have this massive presence. They've got SWAT, they've got FBI, they've got everyone from MSP to Metro Parks Police there responding to make sure that there are not additional co-conspirators. The Temple Israel is the nation's largest Reform synagogue. We have been in the past talking to their security. And we had the retired head of the FBI here in Detroit, Andy Arena, talking to us earlier about how they have such a good security plan there. They are certainly very aware of the threats that are involved in this day and age. And
absolutely. And speaking of that, our own Ruta Olsonida was there just about a week ago talking to their security team about how they have been preparing in case something like this were to happen. We'll go to her report in just a few minutes. We're also waiting on a briefing from Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard. He spoke to us moments ago, and he told us they are still active on the scene just to find out if this shooter had an accomplice and whether he was working with somebody. That's why you see so many agents, police, investigators on the scene hunting around just to make sure he was not working with anyone. But that security personnel right at Temple Israel, you said, Heather, they were on it immediately or right from the start, just in case something like this were to happen.
Yes, they were very aware, and obviously as that vehicle approached, they knew exactly what to do. As the sheriff said, they engaged with this potential active shooter, and but he did breach the building, and that's how the fire started. We've been hearing from our reporters about how the kids were able to get out of the school there, and they were able to get to safety. We have a statement here from the governor. She said, "I'm tracking reports of an active shooting at Temple Israel in West Bloomfield. We are working with Michigan State Police to get more information. This is heartbreaking. Michigan's Jewish community should be able to live and practice their faith in peace. Anti-Semitism and violence have no place in Michigan. I am hoping for everyone's safety," and she is thanking law enforcement for their swift action.
Absolutely. We're going to read this tweet from FBI Director Kash Patel. FBI personnel are on the scene with partners in Michigan and responding to the apparent vehicle ramming and active shooter situation out of Temple Israel in West Bloomfield Township. And we do want to play some sound from one of our reporters. 7 News Detroit reporter Ruta Olsonida was at this temple just last week speaking to the rabbi about how they were preparing just in case something like this were to happen. Take a listen.
Many people are thinking about our security in a more sophisticated way. We have a lot happening at Temple Israel in terms of our security. Obviously, we don't talk about the details, but we are ramping up our security to make sure that people are safe and feel comfortable tonight at our celebration of Purim and at our regular programs and services. We have an incredible with the West Bloomfield Police, who are always watching over us, and we have an internal security team, but we're always asking, should we be doing more?
And I think the reason it's important to play that sound from the rabbi there is all of our churches in this community have ramped up their security, especially after we saw that person ram his vehicle into that church. The deadly mass shooting attack that happened last September in Grand Blanc Township at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We were on the air covering that live when we saw plumes of smoke, and really that entire church went down in flames and 4 parishioners were killed. That was a very frightening situation. And then we started doing reports about just about every church in our community ramping up their security, and why it's so important, because you just don't know when something like this might happen. We don't have any information about this shooter who is now dead, but we do know the reason you see so many police personnel, including the FBI, including the sheriff's office, including West Bloomfield Police. I mean, rows and rows of police vehicles are out there just to make sure the community is safe. There is still a shelter-in-place order in place, I think, for about a mile around that area. And we can't say enough for parents out there so concerned. They are supposed to pick up their children from Temple, Israel at the Jewish Community Center. I can't even imagine if you were at work and you got the phone call to pick your kid up after something like this happened.
Just horrific. And they have an early childhood center there. They have a kindergarten program there. So it sounds like a lot of little kids, and obviously just incredibly traumatic. But again, that reunification point is at the JCC. Just a moment ago there, we could see what looked like kind of like a tow vehicle there. So potentially that may be moving in to at some point remove the vehicle that this person used to ram Temple, Israel.
And again, you see right there on your screen, parents will reunite with children at the Jewish Community Center. Area will be secured by law enforcement. So very important. So all of our parents are you know, feeling comfortable that they can come get their kids and their kids are safe, and there were no casualties, no injuries to report today, which is the good news here.
That is the good news, but there will be heightened law enforcement presence and heightened security at all Jewish institutions in the area today. As we were telling you earlier, West Bloomfield Schools, Bloomfield Hills Schools had a lockdown going on. All of the students were safe, teachers were safe, but they had a lockdown in place while this was unfolding. But again, this active shooter situation, it appears, according to ATF and other law enforcement sources, that the shooter has been neutralized, and there is unknown if there's still a current threat. They are continuing to kind of, you know, monitor the area and search the area to make sure. Again, we talked about possible co-conspirators. We don't know yet the motive for this. We don't know who else could have been involved, but you can bet the FBI especially will be monitoring any kind of electronic footprint this person might have left.
They're on it for sure. And again, if you are just now joining us, this is what happened about 2.5 hours ago. An unknown person literally took a vehicle and rammed it into Temple, Israel in West Bloomfield Township. There was some sort of accelerant. We don't know if it was in the vehicle, whether this person threw it in the temple, but there was a lot of smoke. Heather Cataldo said they did not see flames, but that vehicle was seen steering around security outside the temple, and that is why security personnel immediately engaged that driver, but he was able to ram that vehicle. We have learned maybe 40 minutes ago that that active shooter is now dead. The good news, of course, no known victims, no injuries. There were little kids there at Temple, Israel. They are now being reunited with their parents at the Jewish Community Center. A lockdown is still in place. You see a helicopter in the air. There are tons of police vehicles still on the scene to just make sure that whoever this shooter who is now deceased, that he wasn't working with anyone in that area. So there are a lot of people. We have heard from the FBI Director, Kash Patel, who said his FBI personnel are on the ground there. You can see the Oakland County SWAT team there as well.
County SWAT, yeah. And yeah, early on we saw ambulances, we saw fire trucks, we saw, again, just what looked to be hundreds of police cars, everything from the Michigan State Police to Metro Parks Police. I mean, literally every agency, I think, in Oakland County has probably responded at this point. Probably multiple SWAT teams on scene. Federal agencies, our Simon Chiquette was speaking to the head of the ATF. He was talking about how they're going to bring dogs in to kind of monitor what kind of accelerants may have been used or may still be in the area. Always law enforcement has to be concerned about secondary attack, secondary explosions when you have these kinds of situations. Here's the aerial footage from earlier where we could see those emergency response vehicles. There you can see the smoke coming out right there.
Is that Temple Israel right there in the center of what we're watching? Because if you're just joining us, we want you to know what it looks like. That right there, that is the front of Temple Israel there.
You can see that there's a playground right there. So that we can assume is potentially where the early childhood center is. And you could see smoke coming out of there. Again, our Brett Cass speaking with neighbors just on the other side there who saw the children fleeing and saw the children able to get away.
Wow, that is so frightening when you think about that. And you could actually see that smoke. And I know, again, I keep bringing up Grand Blanc, but it was so frightening. So I'm sure when parents saw that, they were almost panicking, as you might imagine if your child is in Temple Israel. Again, so good to know that there are no known victims and all of those children did make it out safely. We did hear a brief comment from the rabbi there at Temple Israel who spoke to our own Ruta Olsonite about a week ago and said that they had prepared for something like this. I'm sure you can never prepare for someone ramming into your temple. No, but they were ready to jump on.
But they're very aware of the threats, and obviously we unfortunately have seen this continued rise in anti-Semitism and these acts across the region and across
the world.
The world,
yes.
Really. And obviously, you know, not just that, we had the situation in Grand Blanc and we had the situation in New York this weekend. So, and we, you know, as you recall, in October we had a thwarted terror plot.
Absolutely.
So this is.
And we have a really big Jewish community. You've spoken to many representatives in the Jewish community. We have colleagues who are Jewish, and they talk about the threat to their community and anti-Semitism and how we really need to just stand down and love one another and have peace, not only in this nation but in this world, and to stop the hate. Again, we have no idea who this person was who rammed his vehicle into Temple Israel, but in light of what's going on in Iran and the increasing threats across the world, this is a difficult situation. But we heard on the news this morning that we may have an attack here in America because what's going on over there. You see pockets of people here in America who may be thinking about threatening a church or a community. So we all have to be active with our eyes and our ears open to anything that may seem off base.
Absolutely. And ABC reporting this morning that there may be threats on the West Coast, you know, coming from the Iran conflict. So again, you know, tensions are so high. And like you said, all of these religious communities, they all talk about love and peace and you know, the needs for people to try to just, you know, have some tolerance and have some faith. But fortunately, their security team was ready to engage, and they did.
And there are no injuries, no known victims right now. That is certainly the good news. Our whole team is on the scene getting information for all of you watching this at home. Our own Brett Cass has been on the scene from the very beginning. Brett, tell us where you are right now. We see, you know, the swing right behind you. So tell us what you've been hearing, what you are seeing there.
Yeah, Carolyn, so we're in a neighborhood pretty much backing up right to Temple Israel. We're trying to get discern where exactly the front of the building was where this car had crashed into, but we can actually smell the smoke. It kind of depends on the direction of the wind, but when the wind picks up and blows in our direction, we can still smell some of that smoke lingering in the air. If you can see the fire trucks, even one with a cherry picker there, which looks like it possibly could be at the front of the building from what we've heard, and also the flagpoles are right there. So that appears where the front of the building is, where this car you know, drove at the building. And we can see the number of officers that are still here. We have ambulances, fire trucks on scene. We've seen officers from all over, including state police. We just saw the Oakland County SWAT truck drive by. And as you mentioned, we can see what appears to be a small playground right here. And we know that there were young children that had fled from that area of the building right over this mound here into the neighborhood. And some of the people in these homes helped take refuge for some of the kids until we saw then multiple school buses come through this neighborhood and looked like to be transporting the kids back to a reunification center. So there was obviously the main road was packed with police and vehicles, and it was just hard to get through. So we made our way through the subdivision and ended up here closer to the temple. But again, that's where the kids had fled. It looks like this is the area of the building where the preschool had been, because this is a very...
Hey, Brett, we're going to have... Okay, there you go.
Came to the facility, breached the facility by driving into it, was engaged by security. We believe there is one individual deceased in the vehicle. It's been complicated because there was some fire, to say the least, with that vehicle. We believe that individual is deceased. No kids, this is the important thing, no kids or no staff was injured whatsoever. Okay? So we have no victims other than one of the lead security people was hit by the car for treatment. So far, that's our information to this point. We have agencies from all over. Obviously, ATF is here, FBI. More than likely will be taking the lead on this based on some of the preliminary investigative information we have, but we're not going to go into that at this point. But we want to assure the community it doesn't appear to be anything active. We're still clearing the area. We're going to clear vehicles for any explosive devices, the building, etc. Unification of the families and the kids are in progress. We've accounted for everybody that we believe was in the building at the time. So we're on path to continue to maybe pivot to, is there anybody else involved, and the investigative side of what's happened.
So you can confirm that it was security that shot and killed the suspect here?
Well, we can't say what killed him at this point, but the suspect with guns. Into a lot of that stuff, but he breached the building, drove down the hall, engaged by security.
Did you ever find a suspect?
You have been listening to that live briefing of Sheriff Michael Bouchard, and as you just heard him say, the shooter who ran that vehicle into Temple Israel, he said he breached security, rammed into that church. We don't know what kind of accelerant he used, but you saw smoke billowing from Temple Israel. That person is deceased, and they found him inside the vehicle. Sheriff Bouchard said there was some kind of confusion as to whether that shooter was inside the vehicle or had made it out, and I think that's because of the smoke. They surrounded that vehicle, and I'm sure had to wait for the smoke to clear. He said the important thing to mention, no kids, no staff injured. He did say there was one lead security officer who was hit by that vehicle, so that person was injured. We don't know if they've been taken to the hospital or not. And again, they are on the scene, fully ramped up with ATF, FBI, West Bloomfield Police, the Oakland County Sheriff's Department, he said, is probably going to take the lead on this, and they're trying to find out if there was anyone else involved in this situation, this frightening situation that happened today at Temple Israel.
They're still clearing the scene, and he specifically mentioned they've got to clear all of the vehicles. They're going to be checking every vehicle probably on site for explosives. Again, we talked about a little bit earlier how you can have potentially a secondary situation. So they're going to make sure that, that they've got every vehicle cleared, the building cleared of explosives before they allow anyone to go back in there. But again, he said everyone has been accounted for.
Yeah, shooter dead, no victims. I think that was the best news when something like this happens, that no one was injured, especially because we saw that smoke billowing from Temple Israel. And you had so many young children in there.
Children, yeah. As soon as we confirmed that there was an early childhood center there, I mean, my heart just stopped.
Absolutely.
We've been through this with these school shootings, so you're just, okay, please.
And that reunification is going on right now. Sheriff Bouchard said that with the parents and their children, which is good news as well.
At the JCC, and our Simon Shaquette spoke with the head of the ATF here in Detroit a little bit ago.
This is a mass casualty, a potential mass casualty incident involving a fire, a burning vehicle, destruction to a temple by the vehicle, as well as a rifle that was involved. So we're going to bring our expertise to the table with our arson investigators. We've got certified arson investigators across country. I've got 5 here in Michigan that are on scene right now. We've also got our certified bomb techs and our certified explosive experts on scene as well, just in case there's anything inside that vehicle. We're going to assist the Michigan State Police and the FBI in that fire scene. We're going to recover the firearm that was involved in this, trace it to the very last purchaser of that firearm, where it was imported from, and try to determine how this individual became into possession of it.
To mention, we did play sound from 7 News Detroit reporter Rudolph Sinaida, who was there at Temple Israel just about a week ago and spoke to the rabbi who talked about ramping up security there at Temple Israel. And so when this active shooter situation broke out, 2 hours or so ago, the security immediately engaged that driver. And as you heard, Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard say he was killed inside that vehicle. So he didn't even get out of that vehicle with a weapon because they surrounded it. They were ready in case something might pop off. And so that is really good news, because all of our temples, our churches, our synagogues are on heightened alert right now because of a situation like this, because of what happened in Grand Blanc in September, and so many other things going on around the world, especially with the war in Iran. You just don't know when something like this could happen right at the doorstep of your own church, temple, synagogue.
In your own community. And we're just learning now that President Trump has been briefed on this situation that's been unfolding here in West Bloomfield. He's been told about what's happened. And of course, as we've been talking about, there is a large federal response to this, ATF, FBI, as well as Michigan State Police and the local agencies. They're all, again, we've talked about this, they all train together. They train for these events, and unfortunately, security at Temple Israel, they were ready for this.
We're going to listen to the West Bloomfield police chief right now speaking. Let's listen in.
For weeks, not just on the last couple of weeks, but constantly forever. But in the last couple of weeks, even a lot more integrated communication. There are always, and all of the agencies in Oakland County are partnering with their religious institutions and schools, and anytime there's a concern, there's communication, there's extra patrol, extra attention, extra warnings. That had all happened for the weeks leading up to this, and the team inside that building was very queued up, and I know the chief had communicated directly with their head of security weeks ago.
Were there any directed threats at this specific temple?
There was no specific chatter about any institution or facility in Oakland County, but they were all on alert.
Sheriff, we see vehicles leaving. Is all clear of an issue? Is the shelter in place still in?
It's still in place until we clear vehicles and make sure there's no IEDs or other secondary potential. But we believe there's nothing active at the moment.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yep. So it's likely that there could be another press conference here, maybe within the next 2 hours.
Okay.
Something like
Thank
that.
you.
Yep. Same place.
Thank you.
So that was Sheriff Bouchard again talking about how all law enforcement agencies have been in contact with these houses of worship and religious institutions. There was no direct threat on Temple Israel, but of course, as we've been talking about today, tensions have been quite high, obviously considering the situation internationally. So everyone has been on alert. Security was prepared, and when this person breached the building with their vehicle, security engaged them. The suspect is deceased. It's a little unclear exactly how this person was killed, whether they were shot or whether it's a result of the vehicle impact and the fire. But a fire started after the vehicle breached the building. Fortunately, though, all staff, all children accounted for. The Early Childhood Center, they've got a kindergarten program there. Children were able to flee the building. Our Brett Cass was in the neighborhood that's adjacent to Temple Israel, talking about how the children were able to flee over, there's sort of a berm there, and they were able to take shelter in some of the neighbors' homes until buses came to get them. Again, reunification point at the JCC, and the sheriff reminding everybody, if you don't need to go there, please do not. Only families, only people affected should be showing up there. There will be a heavy law enforcement presence there, as well as at all Jewish institutions throughout our region following this attack at Temple Israel.
And we do have some new information right now from the Jewish Federation of Detroit. They said that all of the other Jewish temples and synagogues in the area are no longer needed to be on lockdown because they have secured this situation. They wanted other Jewish temples and synagogues to know they no longer have to be on lockdown after this frightening situation, and I'm sure that's because the shooter is dead. We learned that about an hour ago. They are still searching the area just to make sure that this person was not in cahoots with anyone else involved in this. But as far as the area, at least, that's good news for other Jewish synagogues and temples, as we heard Heather just say that, of course, any of the children who were there this morning, I'm sure they were frightened to be placed on lockdown there. But there is the reunification going on right now at the Jewish Community Center. And if you just heard that last briefing from Sheriff Michael Bouchard, he said that just a couple of weeks ago, all of these churches and synagogues and temples were put on heightened alert just in case something were to happen like today. Of course, this is frightening whenever you think that someone would ram a vehicle into a church or synagogue. And thank goodness the security team there at Temple Israel, they were ready to pounce and to circle that vehicle. He had a weapon inside that vehicle. He had some kind of accelerant. That's why you saw all of the smoke coming from the church. A lot of people on the scene almost immediately. ATF, FBI, West Bloomfield Police, the Oakland County Sheriff's Department, they are all working right now just to make sure our area is secure. And of course, this right here is just a shot video of Temple Israel there in West Bloomfield Township.
And West Bloomfield Police were able to confirm early on that this was an active shooting. As you can see there, that's a look at some of the smoke that was coming out of the building right there by the playground, by presumably the early childhood center there. And you can see just how many, this is early in the situation, not just how many vehicles were there. There's even more there now from law enforcement. Sheriff Bouchard telling us they're checking for IEDs and any kind of other potential explosive devices that may be in the area. They have to make sure that everything is cleared before they let anybody back onto the property. And obviously now it's a crime scene. They're going to have to, make sure they're keeping track of all the evidence, because again, there could be, even though this person is deceased, there could be co-conspirators. So they're going to have to process this like a crime scene, which is of course the last thing that anybody who attends this this huge part of our community, Temple Israel, one of the nation's largest Reform temples. It's a huge part of the community, and this is just a devastating situation that has occurred.
Absolutely. Now, if you are just joining us here on Channel 7, we do want you to know that we have been following an active shooter situation since right before noon. I think Heather said right around 12:45. That shooter is now dead. There are no victims, no injuries other than one of the lead security people at Temple Israel in West Bloomfield Township, where this took place. That is the only person that we are reporting has been injured. And what happened is someone in a vehicle rammed right through the doors of Temple Israel and had some sort of accelerant in the vehicle plus weapons. We heard that there was a shotgun in the vehicle. Luckily, the security engaged that driver right away, encircled that vehicle. There was some confusion early on as to where that person was. What we just learned from Sheriff Bouchard, that he was dead inside the vehicle. So they must have killed him, shot and killed him. We're not sure inside the vehicle, but there was so much smoke they couldn't tell. And so they were still searching for that person who rammed the vehicle into the Temple Israel. And of course, you see so many police vehicles and the SWAT team out there because they were searching for anybody else who might have been involved in this that happened.
Yes, the response was massive and it was very fast. They were all on scene very quickly. We did hear from the special agent in charge of the ATF here in Detroit, and he talked about how he has 5 arson investigators here on scene right now. They also have bomb experts. They have the expertise for any of the fire aspect, or if there were any kind of explosives, which of course, as the sheriff was saying, they're going to be checking to make sure there were no additional IEDs or explosives.
And we've heard from so many people, including the governor, saying there's just no room for any anti-Semitism in the state of Michigan, across the country, or really across the world. So many people in the Jewish community, are frightened for something like this. Thank goodness there were no injuries. Thank goodness that there were so many little kids who could get out as quick as they could. Parents are now reuniting with their children at the Jewish Community Center. And thank goodness that they were put on alert just 2 weeks ago, as Sheriff Michael Bouchard said, and they were prepared for something like this. And I think that's why when this person ran that vehicle in, they could surround that vehicle so quickly, because they were put on alert, and especially with the war going on in Iran and other areas being attacked. And yes, you do see someone, I don't know who that is, from the ATF or from the FBI. They have dogs out there. They're still searching, still looking, I'm sure, looking for any kind of the bombs or anything else that could have been placed outside of Temple Israel.
They're potentially looking for accelerants. Then they're also, I mean, they could also be potentially just making sure there's no one else that had fled the scene that they need to be aware of. But obviously just a massive amount of resources being deployed here at Temple Israel. West Bloomfield and Bloomfield Hill schools were on lockdown while this was going on. Obviously, we're kind of coming to the end of the school day right now, so not clear if the lockdown is still in place, but certainly...
well, we do want to say that the Jewish Federation of Detroit, they said all of the Jewish temples and synagogues in the area are no longer on lockdown. I'm sure this area right here is still on lockdown as they're investigating the area.
There was a separate lockdown. There was that lockdown, and then there were 2 other lockdowns for the school districts. So again, coming to the end of the school day, they're most likely being lifted. But obviously for the students that were at Temple Israel itself, once again, reunification point is at the JCC. For anybody who still has not heard that, then the sheriff does not want other people showing up there. As far as if you don't have someone to pick up, please do not go there. Traffic is going to be an issue in the area. But
yes, because when you look at that video from earlier, you saw how many cars were just out in the street, and I'm sure those were parents rushing to Temple Israel to see what was going on. And so now that reunification is going on at the Jewish Community Center, I'm sure that's a lot better. But you are looking at Temple Israel right there in West Bloomfield Township. This is video from earlier. You can see the smoke billowing from the roof of Temple Israel. And as we've been reporting, right there at those doors, that is where that vehicle rammed inside Temple Israel. Thank goodness security was prepared. They surrounded that vehicle. He or she, the shooter who was trying to cause so much harm has not been identified. But one of the lead security people at Temple Israel was hit with that car, but they surrounded that vehicle immediately so that person couldn't get out and begin shooting or causing harm to anyone in there, whether it was staff, whether it was young children, whether it was members of Temple Israel. So that is the good news. No victims.
Absolutely. You can see the smoke there coming out of the main doors, as well as over by the Early Childhood Center, by that playground at least there. So clearly there was a lot of smoke inside the building from the breach of that vehicle.
And these are live pictures right here. You see how many police vehicles are still right outside Temple Israel investigating, trying to see. I'm sure they're searching the entire area, as we said, looking for guns, looking for potential explosives, looking for anything, or other people who might have been involved with this person who came there to Temple Israel this morning trying to harm people.
Absolutely. And our own reporters on the scene had to actually kind of bail out of their vehicles and hike in to get closer, because as you could see, the roads were shut down, and so many different law enforcement vehicles were there.
7 News Detroit reporter Brett Cast has been on the scene for us, our eyes and ears since the very beginning. Brett, where are you now? You're still in that same spot. Tell us, what are you hearing?
Yeah, Carolyn, we're staying in that same spot because we have a pretty good vantage point right now of Temple Israel, and we've seen, I would say, a more, relaxed. We used to have, a few armed officers that were standing on this mound in front of us. They've since gone back in, so it feels a little bit more relaxed here as we stand here looking at Temple Israel, and we've been able to get a little bit closer, moving towards the temple here. But again, we've seen law enforcement still on scene. We've seen the fire department towards the front where we saw that smoke coming from earlier. It's really hard through the trees and some of the trucks that have been here to get a good vantage point to see from the ground view of the area where the truck drove into the building. But we can still smell the smoke when the wind blows in this direction. We are still smelling that, and you can see the fire department still working in that area on the scene here. But again, this is right by where the preschool section of the building is. We see the playground equipment, and we'd heard from neighbors who saw the children that had fled the building and then taken shelter in one of the homes here, until we then saw the buses coming and picking them up. And we kind of ended up here, again, as you mentioned, all the roads surrounding Temple Israel completely blocked off and just swarmed with law enforcement. Even earlier today, we were on a different story in Detroit when we got the call that this had taken place, and we were starting to make our way here, and cars, unmarked police cars, were flying down the freeway with their sirens on, even from Detroit, 30, 40-minute drive from here. So the response has been pretty massive throughout the entire area. And again, we've seen them all here on scene, not just down the road, but here on scene as well. We've seen SWAT trucks from Oakland County Sheriffs. We've seen the Michigan State Police here. We've seen the ATF on scene here. And just a few moments ago, they had a couple dogs here that were walking down this berm here, sniffing around. We also saw some police having canines elsewhere on the property as well. Again, just securing this and making sure there's no additional threat. Now they know that the suspect is dead inside of his car. They're still taking all the necessary precautions to make sure that this area has been fully swept and is secure. But again, we've seen a little bit more, I would say, a more relaxed feeling from law enforcement. Again, we saw a lot of different armed law enforcement personnel standing here from different departments monitoring the situation. They've since gone into the scene here. We've seen a couple of the SWAT trucks having left the scene here and going back out towards the front of the building, or more towards the main road. So we've seen a little bit more relaxed of a sense. But again, we still have the fire department here, we still have ambulances here, we still have state police here, we still have every department you can imagine on scene, just making sure that everything is secure here at Temple Israel. And we're trying to hear from more neighbors who may have seen what was going on. Many of the neighbors I spoke to didn't even realize much had gone on. They heard somewhat, they described it as a firecracker sound or fireworks sound. One neighbor told me he thought it was something electrical that had happened nearby, and then until he had heard the news and heard the sirens and saw the large response, and then again some of the neighbors seeing the kids coming into the neighborhood here directly behind Temple Israel. So we're still following this, and we're going to remain on scene until as law enforcement is still combing through the area. But as far as information, you've heard it there from the sheriff earlier today, so we're just monitoring it from the backside of Temple Israel. But we do have a pretty good vantage point. You can see the building where law enforcement presence is still very strong here.
Well, Brett, we are so glad that you are on the scene there. I know we've had Simon Shaquette out there, Randy Wembley out there as well. You are definitely our eyes and ears, as this is still an active situation. The shooter is now deceased, but you see there's so many law enforcement vehicles still on the scene, still investigating, still trying to see if anyone else was involved, if there are any other dangers. You heard Brett saying that neighbors could actually see young kids running from Temple Israel, which is, I think, the most frightening thing when you think about that. You hear about an active shooter going to your temple and possibly causing harm. Thank goodness we don't have any injuries today, but of course there was smoke billowing. He had some kind of accelerant, so it could have been far worse, but they're not taking any chances. That's why you see so many ATF, FBI, West Bloomfield Police, Oakland County Sheriff. They're all out there on the scene still. We see hundreds of vehicles still on the scene. These are live pictures right there, still on the scene, just making sure that the area is safe for that community.
Absolutely. And it looks like ABC had talked to Senator Alyssa Slotkin earlier today, who's monitoring the situation. And she said, I'll just say everyone deserves the right to worship in peace. And an act of anti-Semitism, an act of violence, of hate should be treated to the fullest extent of the law. And she said, I'm sick of another one of these incidents in her community, which we've talked about this today, how we've had so many. We had the attack on the church in
Grand Blanc
Township. We've had Oxford. We've had Michigan State. We had the splash pad shooting. We've talked about how law enforcement has also suffered so much trauma themselves, in addition to the community, of having to constantly respond to these kinds of horrific acts in our community.
Yes. We're going to go back to 7 News Detroit anchor Simon Shaquette. He is out there. He has been out there for quite a while. Simon, let us know what you are hearing.
Yeah, just had the opportunity to speak with Rabbi Benny Greenwald from the Friendship Circle, which I've visited and spent time at that organization. That's just a mile or two from here. He has been in steady contact with clergy and members of Temple Israel, which is just behind all of those flashing lights. I've moved locations since we saw you last when we talked with the head of the ATF in Detroit, who's out here on scene. Now you can see it from this vantage point. And a press conference just wrapped up here with the sheriff and with the chief of police and with the leader of the Friendship Circle, talking about all of the training that's gone on and the fact that the head of security at Temple Israel is former law enforcement, someone who's involved in and engaged in ongoing training for worst case scenarios like this with police, with sheriffs, and with federal agencies. And so they're just talking about kind of the process of what's going to be happening going forward, but also revisiting the fact that they have now been preparing for a threat of this nature for years, and they're saying that their systems in place did work correctly to try to protect lives, to keep folks safe, and to try to engage the threat as it happened. And you can still see this entire area is blocked off. You cannot drive toward Temple Israel, toward that direction. And we are also being told that there will be another press conference in about 2 hours, and they plan to switch locations and provide additional information. Some of the things we're still working to achieve here is to hear from the rabbis, some of the clergy, and other leaders at Temple Israel who have not yet come out and spoken with us. We've been hearing from other members of the Jewish community, but we're still working to get in contact with them and to hear from them. And we do expect to hear more from the chief of police, from the sheriff, and from other agencies as their investigation goes forward and as all of this continues to play out.
All right. Thank you so much, Simon. And I know you said Temple Israel and other churches, synagogues, and temples have been preparing for this for years. But it's important to point out that Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard said that they were put on alert 2 weeks ago that something like this could happen, especially with what's happening in Iran right now. We cannot stress that enough, that a lot of people have been on heightened alert, and they were prepared this morning. When that person came and ran that car into Temple Israel, their security personnel immediately encircled that vehicle. So he or she was not able to get out of that vehicle and do more harm, which is really, really important to mention. We do want to recap for a lot of people who may just be joining us thinking that they are going to watch the Kelly Clarkson show. It is 2:57. The Kelly Clarkson show starts about 3 o'clock. We are following an active shooter situation. That shooter is now dead. This happened this morning at Temple Israel, right in West Bloomfield Township. Again, that shooter is dead. There are no injuries. There are no victims. One of the lead security people right there at Temple Israel was hit by a vehicle. So that is the good news here. If you are looking at these live pictures, there are a lot of police vehicles still on scene, just making sure that he or she wasn't involved with anyone else with this attack on Temple Israel this morning.
And now we want to bring in Andy Bartnowak. He's a former FBI supervisor with years and years of law enforcement experience. Andy, what can you tell us about what law enforcement is trying to do at this point in a situation like this?
Well, thanks for having me on. First of all, it's certainly a tragic situation, but with a pretty good outcome considering what could have happened. But I think at this point, law enforcement is still wanting to make sure that this was a lone subject, that there's not anyone else connected to this, that there's not a secondary perhaps attack that might occur, and that they'll be following any logical leads to see where that takes them.
How long do you think they will stay? We see so many police vehicles. I mean, from ATF, FBI, the police, of course, the Oakland County Sheriff's Department. I mean, it seems like there are dozens and dozens of vehicles on scene. How long does an investigation like this take when they're out there trying to clear this area right around Temple Israel?
Well, I think, the first part is before they leave the scene, they're going to make sure that everything is secure. They've got a crime scene. They've got an active crime scene, which is going to entail all sorts of other investigative leads. Once that crime scene is secure and taken care of and any evidence is secured, the investigation is still going to continue. There's going to be other leads. They're in all likelihood, once they identify the assailant, they're going to go ahead and execute a search warrant on his residence, which could lead to other investigative leads. Maybe there's a computer there. They're going to seize that, phones, those types of things. So papers, documents, ledgers, anything that could lead to the motive behind this, whether this was an isolated attack or whether or not there were other people involved with this particular assailant.
One other quick question before Heather jumps in. When Sheriff Bouchard says that Temple Israel and other churches, temples were put on high alert just 2 weeks ago, does that mean that you got some sort of word that an attack is coming, or was that just out of an abundance of caution?
Well, of course, I'm retired now, so I wouldn't have privy to that information, but I can only assume, and I think it's a logical guess at this point, that given what's going on with Iran for the past 2 weeks, that there's probably intelligence out there, and certainly some of it's been reported in the news media, that there may be attacks on the homeland here, right, from perhaps individuals who are sympathetic to the Iranian regime. So that's always going to be on the minds of law enforcement, and then particularly in this case where we've got the current situation going on. So it could have been intelligence, or it could have been just law enforcement being proactive, given the nature of the conflict right now with Iran.
Andy, what can you tell us about what the FBI's capabilities are as far as trying to do a deep dive into the suspect's background, and probably if they had any kind of digital footprint that would have indicated a motive here?
Well, I think it's going to be a while before we find out, but there's a lot to do here by not only the FBI but as well as their state and local partners on this. But I would suspect once they get the identification, they're going to figure out where he lives, and they're going to do a search warrant for any evidence that would relate to this crime. Perhaps there's other documents. They're going to probably seize any electronics. They're going to forensically examine those to find out, hey, who was this person in contact with? Was he just a sort of a lone wolf figure who did this on his own because he's sympathetic to Iran and he has perhaps hatred for Israel? Or was he connected to somebody else? Is this part of a bigger plot? All those leads are going to be run down, and that's going to take a while, but they're going to examine the digital footprints. They're going to interview neighbors, witnesses, family members, basically anybody connected with this person. If he was employed, they're going to go to the work. They're going to interview his supervisors, coworkers. They're probably not going to leave any stone unturned just to make sure to get a clear and complete picture of whether or not this was somebody acting alone or whether there's potentially others involved. And then the other question would be, were there further things planned by this person or perhaps co-conspirators?
Andy, last question for you. I know you talked about potential attacks on the homeland, and I know that has been reported over and over again, but especially on a day like today and even yesterday when there was so much talk about American troops hitting that school there in Iran with young children who were killed. I mean, when you think about an attack on Temple, Israel today where there were young kids, I'm sure that has to increase awareness and alerts here at home as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think, Iran is going to use this tragedy at the bombing of the school, right, as propaganda to use against our enemies and as a motivator, right? And perhaps, I don't know that that's what this is, but it's certainly a possibility, as you mentioned, that perhaps this is in retaliation for what happened over there with the Tomahawk missile. Then again, it could just be a person over here who's sympathetic to Iran and is using that as his own motivation. So whether or not it's connected or whether or not there's more things connected, we're not going to know for a while. But certainly, I don't think it's a stretch to make that suggestion.
All right. Thank you, Andy. Stay with us as we continue our coverage here. We appreciate all of your insight from all your years in the FBI. Let's go live now to our Brett Cast, who is right next to Temple, Israel. Brett?
Back to photographer Brandon over here, was talking to some neighbors here down the street, trying to find anyone who may have been home during this, who heard or saw anything going on. But again, we are still back here. Still have plenty of police here, fire department here, just kind of combing the scene. And again, we saw earlier some K9s that were out here sniffing through the area in the backyards, in addition to the area of Temple, Israel. But again, we've seen more FBI, ATF. I mean, you name it. Every law enforcement agency that we've seen out here is out here, and even down the street here, again, lining with cars of MSP and unmarked cars, and all from departments across the area of Oakland County and beyond have responded here to Temple, Israel. So we are still trying to speak with some neighbors to see who was home and who may have heard anything. I just spoke to a man who had picked up his son at a different preschool down the street, but just was commenting how the fact that these kids who had escaped from this school were the same age as his son, and how upset he was to even think of them having to flee something like this, and knowing that they took cover in a neighbor's home. And they're telling me in some family group chats here through the area, there were videos showing the kids that were leaving the school here and heading towards the neighborhood and taking refuge inside of some of these homes. So again, they're just thankful for all of their neighbors who really stepped up in this moment to keep these kids safe at this preschool here, and obviously to the security at Temple Israel for keeping them safe as well. But everyone's just very thankful. Everyone that I've spoken to here is just very thankful for how this could have been a much worse situation, but thanks to all those who took part in preventing a serious tragedy from taking place, they're just thankful that this outcome wasn't any worse than it was. And again, just crediting the neighbors who jumped into action as well when they realized what was going on and took refuge to some of these kids. So we're still seeing a pretty large presence here. It's definitely, like I said earlier, calmed down a bit. We're getting a little bit closer here. We're seeing less law enforcement on alert surrounding the perimeter here. But again, fire department is still on scene. ATF is still on scene. FBI is still on scene. Everyone's still just trying to make sure they've crossed the T's and dotted the I's and make sure that, as Andy Bartnak was talking about just a minute ago, that this is a lone wolf and there's not some broader impact of this, and just making sure that they have everything secure. And we can still even smell a little bit of smoke when that wind blows in our direction here from Temple Israel, the fire that occurred from that car crashing in the building earlier. So again, we're going to continue to monitor this, but right now the area is still secure and surrounded by law enforcement as they continue to conduct that investigation.
Brett, thank you so much for all of your live reporting for us. We have been on the air now for about 4 hours covering this breaking news at Temple Israel, where the suspect who rammed his vehicle into Temple Israel with a weapon and some type of accelerant is now dead. The good news, as you just heard Brett Cast reporting, even the neighbors jumping into action. That security team at Temple Israel jumping into action to make sure that this person who was trying to cause so much harm there in the temple did not get outside of that vehicle. He was killed inside that vehicle, and that security team encircled him, and that is after one of their security members was
injured.
hit with that car.
Yes, and hopefully that person's going to be okay. As far as we're being told right now, that is the only injury. We were talking a little bit earlier about Senator Alyssa Slotkin reacting to this. Let's listen to what she had to say.
I know this place very well. Grew up not far from there, and law enforcement are still securing the scene. I'm not going to get ahead of the police. We have to listen to the warnings that they are putting out to the local community. That includes friends and family of mine who are sheltering in place and follow law enforcement. But I will just say everyone deserves the right to worship in peace. Everyone. And an act of anti-Semitism, an act of violence, of hate, should be treated to the fullest extent of the law. And I'm so sick of another one of these incidents all the time in my community, across the country. And I think we need to acknowledge that we have a problem. And I'm just sick about it. So we will keep people posted. More will come out. We will learn about the intentions of this madman. But in the meantime, this is very personal. And I'm just so sick of communities of all kinds not being able to worship in peace. And this time the Jewish community is again on the receiving end of abhorrent violence. And I'm over it.
That was Senator Slotkin there talking about how upset she is that another Jewish temple in our community has to deal with something like this, where children are in a temple just trying to be playful in their preschool, and then something like this happens where a man armed with a rifle rams his vehicle into the nation's largest temple right there in West Bloomfield Township. A source saying that the attack occurred, as we all know, at Temple Israel. Synagogues around the world now have been on edge and ramping up security since the U.S. and Israel launched a war with Iran. We've been talking about that as well with missile strikes. And, of course, we were talking about so much talk about that school with young girls being hit by Tomahawk missiles that our American military had. Now, whether this attack today had anything to do with that, we don't know. But for the last 2 weeks, temples churches, synagogues have been on heightened alert, and thank goodness they were on heightened alert and ready for something like this. And I think that's why we don't have any victims or casualties this morning, only the one security guard that was hit by the vehicle. I mean, that community, neighbors jumped into action, security jumped into action, but all of our hearts are sinking on a day like this. As you just heard Senator Slotkin saying her heart is sinking as well, that something like this would happen again in our community, a community she says she knows very well, and we all do. I mean, we have Jewish colleagues, we have Jewish neighbors, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, Senator Slotkin calling this very personal to her. Let's also now take a listen to the head of the ATF here in Detroit talking about what occurred.
This is a mass casualty, a potential mass casualty incident involving a fire, a burning vehicle, destruction to a temple by the vehicle, as well as a rifle that was involved. So we're going to bring our expertise to the table with our arson investigators. We've got certified arson investigators across the country. I've got 5 here in Michigan that are on scene right now. We've also got our certified bomb techs and our certified explosive experts on scene as well, just in case there's anything inside that vehicle. We're going to assist the Michigan State Police and the FBI in that fire scene. We're going to recover the firearm that was involved in this, trace it to the very last purchaser of that firearm, where it was imported from, and try to determine how this individual became into possession of it.
And we do want you to know that investigators are still trying to identify this man and trying to figure out a possible motive for this attack. Investigators are cautioning, though, that this investigation is still in the very early stages. That's why you see so many police vehicles, ATF, the FBI, the Sheriff's Department. They even had their SWAT team out there. They're trying to figure out any leads in this and trying to make sure that this area is completely safe. It is a crime scene. That's why you see in this live video, they are putting out crime tape right now because they're going to sweep this entire area just to make sure it's safe and they don't have to worry about any other person coming forward and maybe doing a secondary attack.
Exactly, and this is going to be a very large crime scene. This is a very large campus. This is Temple Israel is a very large facility. As we've been talking about, they have an early childhood center there. They have kindergarten classes there. So unfortunately, children were there when this happened, but we're being told that they're all safe. The reunification point for parents was at the JCC. Hopefully, most of them have been reunited at this point after the trauma of what they went through today, but fortunately, we're being told no injuries. Again, parents can reunite with children at the Jewish Community Center. That area will be secured by law enforcement. Law enforcement presence will be increased at Jewish facilities throughout the region. The lockdown at Jewish facilities has been lifted, but law enforcement will be present. There is going to be obviously even more heightened alerts occurring. As we talked about earlier in the day, there were lockdowns at 2 very large school districts, Bloomfield Hills and West Bloomfield. This is a very busy area. There are a lot of businesses on lockdown. A lot of this unfolding around 12:45 or so, 12:30, when we had reports confirmed by West Bloomfield Police that they were dealing with an active shooter. Now we've come to learn that this person had a gun and rammed their vehicle into Temple Israel, sparking a fire inside.
Absolutely. And Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard did confirm earlier during a news conference that the security at the temple engaged in gunfire with that active shooter there. So there was some kind of confusion at first as to where that active shooter had gone, but he was killed inside that vehicle because the security personnel there at Temple Israel surrounded his vehicle and engaged in gunfire. So perhaps they killed him because he died right there in the vehicle. But there was so much smoke, they couldn't figure out exactly where that person was. That's why you see so many police vehicles still on the scene. This is an active crime scene. They're still investigating. But again, if you're just joining us, a man armed with a rifle rammed a vehicle into Temple Israel in West Bloomfield Township. It happened this morning. We're not exactly sure the time. We came on the air right around 12:45, and we have been reporting live since. This right here is video of Temple Israel there in West Bloomfield Township. There were children in there. You see that smoke had been billowing out, so we weren't sure whether a fire was going to break out like we saw in Grand Blake Township in September where people were actually killed inside their church. So a lot of people were frightened. A lot of people in the neighborhood saw kids actually running out of Temple Israel this morning, but luckily they're all safe. No victims, and that is the good news today.
And seeing that smoke, it certainly felt like that Grand Blanc situation where the person was shooting and, you know, starting fires. So we're very fortunate that this was not worse than it was. Obviously, the children had to evacuate. The staff got out okay. As our reporters have been talking to people in the neighborhood, which you can see is literally right next door to Temple Israel, the children were able to flee over there and they were able to run to safety. Of course, they were scared, but they were safe. Neighbors were able to shelter them. You can see here, this is video from earlier where you see law enforcement going in, trying to figure out what was happening with this active shooter situation.
Which had to have been, I mean, just absolutely frightening, considering what has been going on, especially since the war in Iran broke out. And synagogues around the world have been on edge, and we heard Sheriff Michael Bouchard say that just 2 weeks ago, alerts went out, even to Temple Israel. And we did hear them say to our own Ruta Olsonida that they had been preparing for something like this just in case there was a breach at the temple, and they were ready this morning. And I think that's why we are all breathing a sigh of relief that we don't have any victims. None of those children were harmed. And again, only one person was hit. One person on the security team, hit by the vehicle. And that's good news. Yeah. That is good news for sure.
Fortunately, the shooter was not able to have any gunfire, at least with them, that hit anybody there. But we do know that, again, everybody except for that one security guard was able to get out without injury and able to be reunited with their parents.
And we do need to tell you, investigators are still working right now to identify that man and to figure out some kind of motive. We don't know if it was prompted by the war in Israel, whether, you know, this person has mental illness. We just have no idea. But they are, I'm sure, you're looking at live pictures right now. You see so many ATF agents, FBI agents, police on the scene, SWAT on the scene, West Bloomfield Police, the Oakland County Sheriff's Department, all surrounding Temple Israel, still investigating. Again, this is an active crime scene. They're going to try and figure out some kind of motive. They're going to try and identify that man who was killed right inside his vehicle. But it has been busy, busy, busy right outside Temple Israel. We have seen dozens and dozens of police vehicles, and they are still on the scene hours later.
And they will continue to be on the scene as they process this massive crime scene. We know the president has been briefed on this. The head of the FBI has been releasing information. And of course, Governor Whitmer releasing a statement earlier saying that she was tracking reports of an active shooter at Temple Israel in West Bloomfield and saying she was working with Michigan State Police to continue to gather information, calling this event heartbreaking, saying Michigan's Jewish community should be able to live and practice their faith in peace. Anti-Semitism and violence have no place in Michigan. And the governor saying she is hoping for everyone's safety and thanking law enforcement.
Absolutely. Right now, we're going to play some sound from Benny Greenwald. He's a rabbi with the Friendship Circle. Take a listen.
We are a very close-knit community internationally, so we all support each other, and when someone's hurting in one place, people in the other place call and just make sure they're doing okay. Most important is to do acts of goodness and kindness to make the world a better place. That's really what we're all here for.
And that is a message we all should remember. The Jewish community, all communities should be able to live in peace and not be fearful that if you drop your child off for preschool, that an active shooter won't ram his vehicle into your temple or your church. And we should think about acting in kindness and in goodness in our community. That is certainly a message that we should all carry forth. I think that's the message that Senator Slotkin had as well, saying that we should all be able to live in peace. One thing I do want to clear up, we did hear from investigators who said that vehicle actually caught fire after crashing into Temple Israel this morning with a suspect armed with a rifle. That security team surrounded that vehicle, but perhaps that's how that vehicle caught fire. We don't know what he had in there, but we have seen video, as you can see again from earlier, where smoke was billowing from the roof, and I'm sure people were fearful that that temple might catch fire. Luckily, it did not. And that security team, they were ready to strike as soon as he rammed that vehicle into the temple.
And we do have some updated information right now. The shelter in place at Walnut Lake and Drake has been lifted. As we have been reporting throughout the day, there were a lot of lockdowns put into place, but the shelter in place at Walnut Lake and Drake has been lifted. Obviously, the law enforcement presence will continue, and presumably there's still going to be some road shutdown because there's so many police vehicles on scene right now. But the shelter in place at Walnut Lake and Drake has been lifted. A lot of businesses were in lockdown. 2 school districts were in lockdown, and all Jewish facilities were temporarily in lockdown. That lockdown has been lifted, but there will still be police presence at Jewish organizations and facilities throughout the day, because again, we want to make sure that there is no further threat to any other places of worship.
Absolutely.
Or any other kind of organization.
And we are getting word, if you are out there listening, or you perhaps are getting in your vehicle in the West Bloomfield Township area, you are to avoid Walnut Lake and the Halstead area. Please avoid those areas, especially right now, because the area, as you see, there's so many police. Farmington and Halstead, Farmington, not Wall Lake, Farmington and Halstead. Avoid those areas. Of course, this is a breaking news situation. You see so many vehicles in this area right now because they are investigating this active crime scene. We have ATF, FBI, West Bloomfield Police, the Oakland County Sheriff's out there. We've got the SWAT team out there, and it is an active crime scene. And that's why this area in particular is on lockdown. So please, if at all, please avoid Farmington and Halstead. Avoid that area.
Absolutely.
On Walnut Lake, we are getting information on Walnut Lake. Okay.
So
on Walnut Lake between Farmington and Halstead. Let me clear that up.
Yes.
There you go.
It's been confusing because there's been multiple sites of things occurring today. And again, just reiterating, if you haven't made your reunification efforts yet at the JCC, the Oakland County Sheriff saying, please do not go there unless you have a loved one who was at Temple Israel, because again, as you can see, the traffic out there and where we've had these various lockdowns, families have got to be allowed to get to their children.
And we've got to hope that they have been reunited at this point at the Jewish Community Center. Let's hope so. We don't know how many kids were in Temple Israel, but we got to hope that they were reunited. As you see there on the screen, parents will reunite with children at Jewish Community Center. Areas will be secured by law enforcement. But let's hope and pray that they have gotten into the arms of their parents.
Hopefully they all have been. Obviously, we don't know, where everyone's days would have to take them, so we don't know how long it would take parents to get there. But yes, and presumably they've all been reunited. And fortunately, like we've been saying, there were no injuries for the children.
Absolutely. And you can see still a lot of cars, a lot of police vehicles still on the scene. Good news, that suspect has been killed in the Temple Israel attack. Investigators still trying to identify the man. And of course, they're working on a possible motive because we don't know what it is at this point. Investigators have cautioned us this investigation is still in the early stages at this point. So we don't want to jump to conclusions. Of course, the war in Iran has been going on for 2 weeks. A lot of churches, synagogues, temples have been on heightened alert. And thank goodness 2 weeks ago they were alerted just that something like this might happen. And that's why, churches, exactly. And they now have security teams 24/7 if necessary, because you just never know when something might pop off, as this did this morning, but they were ready.
It's sad that they had to be ready, but they were ready. And again, the sheriff saying earlier that security at the temple had engaged in gunfire with at least one person. So there was an exchange of gunfire. That is confirmed. But the person that was injured by the vehicle entering.
We do want to say this to you. Shelter in place lifted for Walnut Lake and Drake. Avoid Walnut Lake between Farmington and Halstead. We want to be very clear so everyone knows that, because again, this is a breaking news situation. We're trying to get you the immediate information that we have here in our newsroom, and we want to report it to you as quick as possible. But this is certainly a scary situation for the West Bloomfield Township community. We are so glad with this active shooter ramming his vehicle into Temple Israel this morning that there were no casualties and no victims. Only one person, a member of the security team, was hit by that person who was killed, the shooter, hit by his vehicle, and then they must have engaged in gunfire and then killed him, and they found him inside the vehicle, and that's when there was a plume of smoke.
Yeah, the vehicle apparently started the fire in some capacity.
And so we don't know whether or not he had any kind of accelerant in that vehicle.
Correct. Well, that's of course what they're going to be checking into. You know, ATF is on scene and they're going to be looking at that. Let's take a listen once again to what Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard had told our reporters on the scene just a short time ago.
At least one individual came to the temple. Security saw him engage in fire. The scene, we're not getting any active stimulus at the moment. We have everything here that we need, including, you know, medics and tactical gear. We're looking to see if there's more than one person. We're still trying to figure that out. We're trying to get access to the video. At the moment, we have people that shelter in place for at least a mile.
Okay, we're going to read something. We're going to read a comment from Governor Gretchen Whitmer right now. She says, I am tracking reports of an active shooting at Temple Israel in West Bloomfield. We are working with Michigan State Police to get more information. This is heartbreaking. Michigan's Jewish community should be able to live and practice their faith in peace. Anti-Semitism and violence have no place in Michigan. I am hoping for everyone's safety. Thank you to law enforcement for their swift action, and we all have to thank them.
Also, Kash Patel, the FBI director, saying today on X that FBI personnel are on the scene with partners in Michigan and responding to the apparent vehicle ramming and active shooter situation out of Temple Israel in West Bloomfield Township, Michigan. Also, Attorney General Dana Nessel had weighed in earlier, condemning if this is an anti-Semitic act.
And these are live pictures right now. You see little kids reuniting with their parents, and I'm sure that is such a welcome sight for all of us right now. You see that one dad or uncle or somebody hugging that one child. And look, at least you can tell the children look happy, skipping along. They probably have no idea exactly what happened there at Temple Israel, just happy to be reunited with their parents. And we are so happy to see those scenes as well.
Absolutely. And hopefully, based on how the temple is set up there, they were able to kind of get out through a door and never even saw the attacker, and they just had to kind of run and get off the scene, which of course is terrifying, but hopefully they didn't have to see what occurred based on the way the layout of the building is. Of course, we don't know that for sure, but that is, as a parent, you would hope that they didn't have to see that.
And we are just getting word from investigators. As you heard, that shooter engaged in gunfire with security personnel there at Temple Israel, and then there was a fire. That suspect is dead and was burned up in that vehicle. That's why investigators are trying so hard to identify that suspect, because he was burned up in the vehicle, and I'm sure that is going to take a while. That's why you saw the plumes of smoke coming out of the roof of Temple Israel. But these live pictures right here, just a welcome sight to see so many parents leaving Temple Israel with their happy children, and that no one was harmed in this, because it could have gone another way. So, of course, we thank all of our police agencies for getting on that scene so quickly. We thank Temple Israel's security team for acting so quickly and swiftly to make sure no one was harmed there at Temple Israel.
Yes, they've had to prepare, because we've, unfortunately, as Senator Slotkin was saying, we've had too many of these attacks on houses of worship. And of course, we've had, several school shootings, and of course the splash pad shooting not that long ago in Oakland County. Many of these things occurring in Oakland County. So unfortunately, they've had to just really be prepared for these types of incidents. And the fortunate part of that is they responded so quickly. They were on scene so quickly and able to confirm what was going on and get everybody out and get everybody safe.
And again, if you're just joining us, we are right about 3:30. And if you are just joining us here on 7, we have been following breaking news since before noon here on 7. A man armed with a rifle rammed a vehicle right into Temple Israel in West Bloomfield Township. He had a rifle inside that vehicle. He exchanged gunfire with the security team there at Temple Israel, and some kind of fire started in the vehicle. That suspect was killed by gunfire, and a fire erupted inside the vehicle, and that suspect was burned. Investigators right now are trying to figure out that person's identity and trying to figure out a motive. That is going to take a while. I'm sure you were looking at earlier pictures of Temple Israel, and you could see the smoke coming from the roof.
You can see the smoke coming from the roof, and it was coming out the front door, and also kind of coming out near where the playground there is. So hopefully all of the children at the Early Childhood Center and their kindergarten program were able to, they did all get out safely. Hopefully they didn't have to experience any of that, the smoke that was happening there, because as the fire kind of spread inside there.
And I think neighbors said they saw kids running from Temple Israel into the neighborhood, and they were swiftly taken to the Jewish Community Center, where they were reunited with their parents, and that's why you saw those live pictures, and that's why that brings a smile. Even though this is breaking news and tragic, it was good to see kids skipping along with their parents and safe today, because it could have gone another way, and it didn't.
It could have been even more. I mean, it was horrific, but it could have been even more horrific.
Especially,
but the community coming together. Our Brett Cast in the neighborhood talking to neighbors who were sheltering the children and their teachers as they came across the property there to get away from Temple Israel while this was unfolding. So you had this massive community response from law enforcement, and then also just neighbors just opening their doors to protect everybody.
And our team has been out there in that community right there in West Bloomfield Township. Simon Shaquette, Brett Cast, Randy Wimbley, reporting to us exactly what has been going on. And I think a lot of people are breathing a sigh of relief. And there are still dozens and dozens of police vehicles still surrounding Temple Israel, still investigating, still searching to see if this was just a lone wolf or whether he was involved with someone else, whether he planted bombs in the area. You said ATF is out there trying, just making sure there are no explosives and just making sure that the entire area is secure.
And checking for accelerants. And of course, as we talked, this now becomes the crime scene. So they have to preserve evidence, because if obviously this individual is deceased, but if there were co-conspirators and they have to prosecute them, they're going to need to be able to preserve evidence and pursue charges that way.
And I think the number one thing that they're thinking about is identifying that suspect so they can go to this person's home and perhaps look at computers or find other evidence, whether he was working with someone else, or even to figure out a motive. We don't know if this person was mentally ill, as so many other people have been in situations like this, but the suspect was burned up in that vehicle. And good thing he couldn't get out of that vehicle with that weapon.
To cause further damage.
Absolutely. And only one security personnel was rammed with that vehicle.
Injured, yes. And we don't have an update on the injury, but hopefully it was not life-threatening. Let's go back now to our Brett Cast, who's live at the scene. Brett?
Yeah, Heather, we're still in the same spot, getting a little bit closer, just inching closer to the back of Temple Israel, as again, it's starting to even calm down even further. But we do have a SWAT team, looks like, gathering around the corner here, just right where the playground is of the building. And again, we know that they're kind of just sweeping the area, securing the area. We saw some canines out here earlier, just sniffing around even in the back of these homes here in the subdivision that borders Temple Israel. But there is still a pretty heavy law enforcement presence on scene, not quite the same as what we saw earlier today, but definitely still out here. And we talked to some of the neighbors. I've been trying to see anyone who would talk on camera. We did speak to one neighbor earlier who had said his wife had heard what sounded like firecrackers outside, and that's what got her attention after she heard that, and then the sirens, and then had seen some of the kids running out through the area. And I just talked to one of the neighbors who helped house the children. He said he heard some of the sounds that sounded like gunfire. He wasn't certain, and then had seen the kids running out. And then law enforcement asked him if he had any blankets or anything to help keep them cold. And then he offered up his garage, where he said about roughly 40 kids or so had actually taken cover in his garage as police were trying to secure the scene and keep these children warm after having gone through, what they just went through here at Temple Israel. So a lot of people jumping into action to make sure that this was not a further tragedy here today at Temple Israel in West Bloomfield. We know law enforcement is still on scene. We're hoping to get an update soon from Sheriff Bouchard with further information. But again, we still have this large SWAT team, which looks like they're moving towards a different part of the building. This is right by the play structure, but we can still see a number of folks here after this truck had pulled up here from, looked like, I think this one said Oakland County SWAT. So again, we still have a number of law enforcement agencies on scene as they continue to make sure that Temple Israel is safe and secure here in West Bloomfield.
Okay, thank you so much, Brett, for your live reporting for us all day. today. And, you know, we were getting so many messages from community members. This is West Bloomfield has a large Jewish community, and I did get one message from Shay. And she says, we are West Bloomfield and Temple Israel strong. Absolutely sickening, no other way to put it. I'm a complete mess. She said she actually went to preschool there at Temple Israel, but she said the community is holding strong together. They're supporting one another, and she thanks you know, law enforcement and even the neighbors in this community for jumping into action. So, you know, a lot of people are reacting that way. I'm getting so many phone calls watching our coverage and just saying, you know, thank you for reporting this. Thank goodness no one was killed today. And thank goodness for the sight of those kids being reunited with their parents. I think that was good for all of us to see a lot of kids skipping and hugging moms and dads and just happy to be in their arms. And I'm sure those parents are.
Yeah, that was the best thing we could have seen. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, as parents, it just, you know, your heart just breaks when you hear active shooters. So that was wonderful. And to hear the neighbor who sheltered 40 kids in his garage that Brett was talking to us about. But you saw the SWAT team there. They could be maybe going into further clear rooms inside Temple Israel. It's unclear if they've done that yet or not. Obviously, with the fire in place, they would have had to wait for that to kind of be mitigated. So we saw the SWAT team, it looked like the Oakland County SWAT team, they're gathering. And they'll probably, they still have more work to do. As the sheriff talked earlier, they're going to have to be checking every vehicle that was left there to make sure there's not some further threat on site.
And
so they're going to be continuing to evaluate the crime scene and, again, gathering any kind of evidence there may be, because they will know what this was potentially about. They'll be able to, you know, access if there was any kind of electronic footprint of social media posts or anything like that. The feds will most likely, and of course local law enforcement, be able to access all of that, execute search warrants, and be able to tell, did this person act alone?
And hopefully they'll be able to figure that out soon, because that suspect was burned up in that vehicle, because we have learned from investigators that it caught fire when he crashed into Temple Israel. 7 News Detroit reporter Tiara Braddock is part of our team covering this breaking news for us. Tiara, where are you and what are you hearing?
Hi, Carolyn. Yeah, I'm outside of the JCC, so I'm on the other side of the street. It's all the way up there. We have been pushed back, so we have not been able to actually go into the parking lot and speak to the parents who have been getting their children. I did speak to a man whose wife works for the JCC, and he said that she was very shook up when all of this happened. Now, we're working on getting that sound to you guys so everyone can hear what we had to say. So just give us a few minutes. We're going to try to get that to you guys. But again, I'm across the street from the JCC. We're just waiting for people to kind of come out so we can talk to them. Again, we are separated from them. I am across the street, safely across the street, just waiting to hear from those parents, because I know they have to be very shook up from all of this, Carolyn.
We're seeing footage of parents reuniting with their kids, and I'm sure trying to get into their vehicles as quick as possible to get their kids back home. I know the JCC, my kids actually played basketball and ran track right in that Jewish Community Center. Everyone is welcome at the Jewish Community Center, but it is a big place.
It's a big campus.
It's a big campus, and so we don't know exactly where those parents went in to reunite with their children. But again, we cannot stress how good it was to see. And again, you're seeing it right there, a dad carrying a kid, another dad carrying a kid, just reuniting and just happy, I'm sure, to have their kids back in their arms after this suspect rammed a vehicle into Temple Israel this morning. But that security team, they were ready and circled that vehicle quickly. It did catch fire. He did have a rifle in that vehicle. We don't know for sure whether he had accelerants, but something made it catch fire. But thank goodness he was stopped in his tracks. At this point, they are trying to identify that suspect who was burned up in his vehicle. I'm sure that's going to take some time. I don't know how long. I don't know how badly his body was burned, but the investigation is certainly on, and ATF, police, FBI, SWAT teams, all out there still investigating. And as you see that crime tape, it is a crime scene.
It is a very active crime scene. We saw officers with dogs kind of on the perimeter earlier, doing their part in securing the scene and checking for any kind of evidence. Presumably law enforcement, they may already know who this person was, considering that there's probably a license plate on the vehicle. They may not be able to identify the person yet physically, but they may know, they may have leads, and presumably they're going to be preparing to execute those search warrants and try to find out, you know, what actually occurred here, what prompted this, what was the motivation behind this. We may never know, but they will certainly try, and they're going to have to find out, did anybody help this person? How did they get the weapon? How did this all unfold? Is somebody else potentially responsible? You can see here we've got the Oakland County SWAT vehicles moving around. It's a little unclear which direction they're heading right now. They might be clearing.
We have had a number of briefings from Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard. We're going to let you listen in to a comment he made earlier. We are going to have another briefing in about an hour, 20 minutes or so. So you can wait for that, where we can get the very latest information. But for right now, let's listen in to what Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard said earlier.
At least one individual came to the temple. Security saw him engage in fire. The scene, we're not getting any active stimulus at the moment. We have everything here that we need, including, medics and tactical gear. We're looking to see if there's more than one person. We're still trying to figure that out. We're trying to get access to the video. At the moment, we have people that shelter in place for at least a mile area until we determine that there's no one else that maybe was on foot and fled the area. Exactly what's going on, number one. Number two, Reunification will be at the JCC, the Jewish Center, and that's where parents will go to pick up their kids. It's going to be secured by law enforcement, so no fear there. If you have nothing to do with
Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard has been doing briefings all day since this breaking news started with this suspect, who is now dead, rammed his vehicle into Temple, Israel. He has been keeping us abreast of what's going on. There are a lot of police, ATF, FBI, Sheriff's Department personnel on scene investigating this crime scene.
Absolutely, and I'm just hearing now that school is being dismissed in West Bloomfield. As we were reporting earlier, that district was on lockdown because of this active shooter situation at Temple Israel. So school dismissal is taking place for the West Bloomfield School District right now. Buses are being dispatched so that can get underway, probably happening a little bit late because of all of this. And obviously there are roads shut down, which is going to make busing kids home a little bit more challenging today.
Absolutely. Let's listen into some sound from Senator Alyssa Slotkin from earlier on her reaction to what happened here at Temple Israel today. Take a listen.
I know this place very well. Grew up not far from there, and law enforcement are still securing the scene. I'm not going to get ahead of the police. We have to listen to the warnings that they are putting out to the local community. That includes friends and family of mine who are sheltering in place and follow law enforcement. But I will just say everyone deserves the right to worship in peace. Everyone. And an act of anti-Semitism, an act of violence, of hate, should be treated to the fullest extent of the law. And I'm so sick of another one of these incidents all the time in my community, across the country. And I think we need to acknowledge that we have a problem. And I'm just sick about it. So we will keep people posted. More will come out. We will learn about the intentions of this madman. But in the meantime, this is very personal. And I'm just so sick of communities of all kinds not being able to worship in peace. And this time the Jewish community is again on the receiving end of abhorrent violence. And I'm over it.
I'm sure she is echoing the sentiment of so many people, not just here in our community, but really across America and across this world. Because simply put, everyone deserves the right to worship in peace without violence, especially in a church, in a synagogue, in a temple, and with the little kids there. Everyone deserves to worship in peace. She's sick about it. We've gotten so many comments on our phones, on our Facebook page, that people are sick of anti-Semitism and just attacking people for no reason, just out of hate. And just like she said, she's sick about it. So many people are sick about it, and enough is enough.
Enough is enough. She called this attack very personal, and she said she's very sick of these incidents.
Yeah, she said she grew up not too far from there.
Absolutely. Once again, the shelter in place for some of the areas around Temple Israel has been lifted at this point. Again, school dismissal for West Bloomfield is going on now. They had a lockdown earlier for that district. So school dismissal for West Bloomfield schools is happening now. The buses are being dispatched. Obviously, roads still shut down near Temple Israel. You can see all these police vehicles that had responded. They're starting to move around here, but these roads are still completely jammed with first responders as they race to the scene. It's all unfolding around 12:45, 12:50, somewhere in there, when we were first received word from West Bloomfield Police of an active shooter.
And if you are just joining us and just turning on Channel 7, expecting the 4 o'clock news or the Kelly Clarkson show, this is breaking news that we have been covering since shortly after noon today. A man armed with a rifle rammed a vehicle into Temple Israel right there in West Bloomfield Township. That suspect is dead, but he did have a rifle in his car. We have learned from investigators that that car basically caught fire when he rammed his vehicle inside there. The personnel at Temple Israel surrounded that vehicle very quickly. He exchanged gunfire with the personnel at Temple Israel, and they were ready. They were prepared because they were put on alert just 2 weeks ago when the war in Iran broke out. And synagogues around the world have been on edge and ramping up security since the U.S. and Israel launched a war with Iran with missile strikes. And remember, that happened on February 28th, and the FBI has warned that we could have attacks on the homeland just like this. Now, again, we have not identified this suspect because he was burned up in that vehicle. We do not know a motive. Investigators are going to take care of that, and that's going to take some time, so we don't want to jump to any conclusions. But there have been so many reports, again, about tomahawk strikes by the U.S. military on an all-girls school there in Iran. And so there have been plenty of warnings that we could be attacked here on the homeland as well. So a lot of people are on a heightened alert right now.
Absolutely. We heard former FBI agents on our air talking about how Iran could be using that as propaganda. But again, we do not know the motivation yet. We don't know. But anytime you see an attack on a place of worship, obviously you have to look at the possibility that it's a hate crime. And in this case, it's Temple Israel, a very large Jewish institution that's been in our community for many, many, many years. And of course, with the rise of anti-Semitism, that is going to be the first thing that law enforcement looks at to find out exactly what was the motivation of this person. Why would they attack Temple Israel with their young children inside, you know, at their early childhood center, their kindergarten program, and anything else that may have been happening.
Absolutely. And we talked about this when we saw that deadly mass shooting attack last September at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc Township. And we talked about, wow, I mean, would a person really ram a vehicle into a church, just like we saw someone ram a vehicle into Detroit Metro Airport? And so here we are again, seeing a person ram a vehicle into a place of worship in Grand Blanc Township. I mean, it was much more tragic. I mean, 4 people lost their lives and plenty of people were injured. But here we are again, right in our backyard in West Bloomfield Township. Thank goodness there were no victims today. We only have 1 person injured, and that was a security personnel who was hit by that vehicle. So that's the good news. And the good news, we saw all of those young children from Temple Israel reunited with their parents, and so happy to do so, hugging their moms and dads and skipping out.
So many smiles with that reunification. It's such a wonderful sight, especially considering how we started off this situation, the fear that this could have been so unbelievably tragic. Let's go back to our Brett Cast, who's been live right next to Temple Israel all day for us. Brett?
Yeah, Heather, we continuing to hear from neighbors and continuing to be alongside in the back of Temple Israel, and we've definitely seen it clearing out in the last, I'd say, 30 minutes, even more so than it had been a little earlier today. This was completely swarmed. This entire street right here, this driveway, was completely filled with cars from police vehicles from all over the place. So definitely we've seen it clear a bit. But you can still see, we just saw some FBI agents walk by. You can still see law enforcement there with vests on, guns out. out here walking through, excuse me, not, but through the area here. Michigan State Police have a vehicle down there as well. And we have the fire department here on scene as well. And we believe that the car had gone through the kind of the front of the building in this direction. It's been hard to see from our vantage point on the ground exactly where the car went into the building. But we know it's kind of close in that proximity because we see all the law enforcement that have been centered on that area. And we've been able to smell the smoke here, especially as the wind is blowing in our direction. So we've seen a lot less law enforcement throughout this area. Again, we saw them kind of even standing on this berm where I'm standing now. We saw law enforcement with their guns drawn, kind of standing here, keeping this building secure, but it has definitely taken a much different stance here in the last 30 minutes to an hour, especially as we've seen a lot of law enforcement clearing out of this area. And again, we can see the playground right here of where that preschool was. And this is where the area where the kids had fled into the neighborhood and taken refuge in the homes here, at least one home we know of that had taken in some kids in the garage. So law enforcement is still on scene. We expect them to be on scene for quite some time. They put out police tape here around this entire perimeter here, tied to the trees and whatnot here, blocking off the back of Temple Israel. So we still see law enforcement in the parking lot, but definitely not the same sense of urgency as we saw a little bit earlier in the afternoon. So we're still monitoring it from this vantage point here alongside Temple Israel as we hope to learn more official information from the sheriff in the near future.
All right, Brett, thank you so much. We appreciate our entire team being out there on the scene, doing live reports and being our eyes and ears on the ground and reporting how the community is reacting. And I know so many neighbors are just so happy that the police responded so quickly and that security team at Temple Israel responded so quickly. So this couldn't be, I mean, it's tragic, but it could have been far worse.
Far worse.
Thank goodness.
Far worse. Yeah, neighbors talking about how they could hear fireworks. Of course, it was not fireworks, it was gunfire.
Gunfire and that car blasting its way into Temple Israel, and then the gunfire, right? And then that car catching fire, and that suspect was burned up in that vehicle, and thank goodness he couldn't get out with a rifle.
And because the security teams were able to engage with him, and so far as from everything we've heard from law enforcement, the only person injured was the head of their security team, who was injured when the vehicle came through the building. We're waiting on an update on that person's condition.
And we are going to play some sound right now. We do believe this is a man whose wife works at the Jewish Community Center, where these parents, as you just saw, were leaving with their children because they ran from Temple Israel. They were taken to the JCC where they were reunited with their parents. So let's listen in to this man whose wife works at the JCC.
It's something that's always on my mind ever since October 7th. There's been a fear of that happening. And unfortunately, I think now we're at a time where it could go either direction, and it's just been a very scary time, and we just have to protect ourselves. And thankfully, Temple Israel has an incredible security team who I believe, from what I've been hearing, stopped the threat. And I think that's a testament to the people they chose to hire and the amount of money they chose to put into that.
Yeah, we talk about that over and over again, how houses of worship have to hire security teams, and they have to go through training because something like this might happen, but thank goodness they were ready.
Well, and we had security thwart another church attack previously back in the fall. So it is fortunately a necessary investment that so many places have had to make, but certainly a life-saving endeavor.
Absolutely, and we've done so many stories. Ruta Olsanaida was right at Temple Israel just about a week ago, talking to the rabbi there and talking about what they were doing because of the war in Iran and just being on heightened alert. And today that helped save lives. And I think that's why neighbors and even this man here whose wife works at the Jewish Community Center, they're just so thankful that houses of worship are putting money into security teams because it's so needed today. And it may get worse, as we've heard Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard say, attacks on the homeland may be coming even more. And again, we don't know if this was connected. They're working to identify that suspect who is now dead. He was burned up, so that may take a while, and they're trying to figure out a motive.
And they certainly will do their best to get to the bottom of that and figure out exactly, did he have anyone else that had helped him? Did someone else help him get the weapon? How did this all come about, and why? And sometimes that's a hard question to answer, but why this person attempted to do this today?
Yes, and did he see that attack in Grand Blanc Township on that Church of Latter-day Saints back in September when another person rammed his vehicle into that house of worship and it caught fire? I mean, it burned down the entire church, and so many people were trapped inside there, and there were deaths there, and we don't know if, This person saw that and then figured, I'll do the same thing. Now it's just tragic. And again, we can't say enough about that security team jumping into action surrounding that vehicle and preventing him from getting out of that vehicle with that firearm and shooting people there on site.
Absolutely. And neighbors nearby sheltering children from the early childhood center there. 40 kids sheltering in someone's garage as they try to keep
that
them warm.
amazing?
Yes, absolutely. And just people coming together to make sure as this unfolded that all of those sweet little kids were safe, and then they were able to be reunited, as we saw as the parents coming out of the JCC there.
And wouldn't you love to hear what that person, like, what do you say to children? I know you just say, you keep them happy and keep their thoughts on anything but, as you're standing there nervous.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But you have 40 kids there, but at least they were out of harm's way, right?
Absolutely. So major thank you to the community and to law enforcement.
Law enforcement for sure. I mean, ATF jumping on scene quickly, FBI on scene quickly, West Bloomfield Police, the Oakland County Sheriff's Department, including their SWAT team. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of vehicles lined up and down that street almost immediately.
Yeah, it was reminiscent of Oxford, how the entire region responded when we had that horrific shooting, and you had literally every police agency in the area sending vehicles, sending resources, offering to help. We saw police cars from the Michigan State Police all the way to the Metro Parks Police on scene here at Temple Israel. Once again, this is all unfolding around 12:45 today. Reports from West Bloomfield Police confirming they had an active shooting situation underway. We now learning from law enforcement that this person rammed Temple Israel with their vehicle. Temple Israel's security team engaged with the suspect, killing the suspect. That vehicle, though, for whatever reason, sparked a fire, which we could see from our aerial footage. And there was in a lot of different places in the facility, so we weren't sure if we were going to have another situation like we had in Grand Blanc.
Absolutely.
Where the entire building was.
And there was even a lot of confusion because there was so much smoke. They were looking for the suspect and didn't know if he was in that vehicle or had escaped. Exactly. But he was killed, thank goodness, by that security team. And thank goodness that Temple Israel didn't catch fire. You only saw plumes of smoke coming from the roof there.
Yes, but
that's a large campus too.
It's a huge campus, and the parking lot was relatively empty, so also potentially a blessing here that there weren't as many people there that could have been there, making this potentially even more of a tragedy. But the children at the facility with the staff able to get out, nobody injured from what we're being told right now. Obviously traumatic and upsetting, but we were able to see those big smiles on the faces of family members and those little ones.
I would think that those were the best shots we could see all day.
Yeah.
Seeing kids in such a tragic breaking news situation, to see kids skipping out and smiling and hugging their parents.
Fortunately, and once again, the shelter-in-place orders that were issued earlier, those in large part have been rescinded. And West Bloomfield School District had been on lockdown. They have been dismissing students. Bloomfield Hills schools were also on lockdown. Presumably, we don't know for sure if they've been dismissing, but we're going to assume that it's almost 4 o'clock. Probably they had, but obviously, please avoid the area. There's still a very large law enforcement presence. They still have to process this crime scene.
Absolutely.
And try to put the pieces together of what sparked all of this.
And the good news is the Jewish Federation of Detroit said all of the other area temples and synagogues, they are no longer on lockdown. And I'm sure that's a big sigh of relief for so many people who have been watching this breaking news all day long. Now, we are coming to the top of the hour. We do want to tell our TV 20 viewers that our coverage will continue over on Channel 7 because we're going to come up on the 4 o'clock news in about a minute or so. But if you're still watching this live coverage, please turn over to Channel 7 because our live coverage will continue there. We'll also have updates at WXYZ.com because I know this is disturbing for so many people who have been watching this.
So upsetting, and our team has been absolutely doing a fabulous job trying to keep everybody up to date on scene. We had reporters bailing out of their vehicles, rushing to get to the scene to bring us all of these updates, and they've done a great job.
Absolutely.
Getting
We've
us
had
in touch with
Simon
everyone.
Shaquette, Randy Wimbley, Tierra Braddock has been out there.
Brett Cass, Julie Sherman, she was one of the first ones there, showing us just the massive response by police. Just, I mean, almost like a mile-long line of police vehicles.
And then you and Allie Hoxie, of course, were covering this breaking news from the start here on Channel 7, of course, on TV 20. And so, you know, our entire team has had a hand in this, all of our producers, and just trying to keep you abreast of what is happening, because this can be so frightening. As I was coming into work, friends were calling me as well.
7 News Detroit starts with breaking news.
The time is now 4 o'clock. If you are just joining us, we have been live on the air since 12:30. A suspect dead after an attack at a Jewish temple in Oakland County.
It happened this afternoon at Temple Israel off Walnut Lake Road near Drake in West Bloomfield. Police saying a man armed with a rifle rammed a truck through the front doors. The suspect then exchanging gunfire with security guards before being shot and killed.
You know, this incident triggering a massive response by law enforcement. The Temple School placed on a precautionary lockdown for hours. Other schools in the area ordered to shelter in place. So, you know, a lot of people were so frightened by this. The attack leaving neighbors on edge.
We are a very close-knit community internationally, so we all support each other, and when someone's hurting in one place, people in another place call and just make sure they're doing okay. Most important is to do acts of goodness and kindness to make the world a better place. That's really what we're all here for.
We're expecting an update from law enforcement officials in West Bloomfield Township later in the hour. We will bring that to you live just as soon as it begins.
Well, we have been covering this breaking news situation live here on Channel 7 and, of course, on TV 20 all day long. A team of our reporters have been on the scene since this story broke. 7 News Detroit reporter Randy Wimbley is there as well. So, Randy, explain to us where you are right now and what are you seeing?
Hey guys, I'm over at the intersection of Drake and Walnut Lake. I'm about 100 feet away, a few hundred feet away from Temple Israel. Here are some big points you can hang your hat on. The suspect in this situation is dead. Thankfully, no kids or teachers were injured, but a security guard was hurt. I'm going to have you take a look behind me. Still very much an active scene. This all happened around 12:30 this afternoon. Everyone believed to have been in the building at the time has been accounted for. The suspect drove his truck through a door at the Temple Israel. That truck somehow caught fire and there was smoke seen coming from the building. More on that in just a moment. Investigators say the suspect rammed a lead security team member at Temple Israel with his vehicle, knocking him unconscious. Other security members pulled that wounded member from danger. Investigators say he is expected to be okay. The Oakland County Sheriff's Office says when the suspect drove down the hall in Temple Israel, the security team engaged him. Investigators are not yet saying if the suspect fired any shots inside, but those security team members did fire on him. That suspect later found dead. Take a listen to Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard. Did she say no sound or sound? Okay. All right. So now, Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard, he could not say what exactly killed the suspect. He can't say that at this point, but he did say that the security team did engage the suspect with gunfire. They do know a bit about that fire. Something inside the suspect's truck ignited, so they are working right now with an abundance of caution to clear that vehicle for IEDs or explosives. They've got a number of bomb dogs on the site. They're going to be checking all of their boxes just to ensure that everything is safe and clear here at Temple Israel. Law enforcement is still clearing the area, building and vehicles for explosive devices. The focus now in this investigation on if the suspect had any accomplices. Now, parents and family members are reuniting, as you mentioned earlier, over at the Jewish Community Center, which is not too far from Temple Israel. A shelter in place for this immediate area, Walnut Lake, from what I'm hearing, between Farmington and Halstead, has been lifted. We are hoping to get another update from investigators in a couple of hours. For now, we're live in West Bloomfield. I'm Randy Wembley, 7 News Detroit.
Randy, are you saying that they're not clear yet if the suspect did fire shots? Is that what you were hearing from law enforcement?
Yeah, the last that we heard from Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard is that they cannot say at this moment, they're not saying at this moment, if the suspect fired any shots. They have some information about that, but nothing that they can release at the moment. But as he did drive through that the campus there into one of the buildings at Temple Israel, that the security team members did engage that suspect. And right now I'm getting a public safety alert. It's buzzing in my ear at the moment. West Bloomfield Police, shelter in place lifted. There is no longer an active threat. Please continue to avoid the area. That's a message that just came through on my phone from West Bloomfield Police, a public safety alert. Shelter in place lifted. There is no longer an active threat. Please continue to avoid the area.
Well, you know what? Thank you so much, Randy, for your updates. This is a breaking news situation, and we've heard several press conferences by Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard trying to keep us abreast of what's going on. And he did say, after the suspect rammed his vehicle, somehow it ignited. He did have a rifle, and I'm sure they don't know for sure whether he got a chance to get that rifle, because if that security team surrounded his vehicle, they may have shot and killed him, and then he might have burned up. But just don't know.
Based on the ramming of the building and having the rifle, they are obviously clearly engaging him with gunfire. And then, of course, they're going to still be looking into what started the fire. Did he have something additional in his truck like we've seen in other incidents? Or is it just the fact that the truck was shot and things started to explode?
And whether he acted alone. We do have Shay on the phone, and I do believe Shay is a student in West Bloomfield and may have gone to school at Temple Israel. Not sure. Shay, your school was just let out of lockdown, correct?
Yes, correct. We were let out after 1 hour of a hard lockdown. So our normal dismissal time is 2:23, and they released us out of the building at 3:23.
So Shay, tell us, you were in lockdown, obviously, with other students. What were you saying to each other? Did you know what happened at Temple Israel? Did you all have your phones, or just tell us what the situation was like?
Yeah, so we were getting ready to leave our 5th hour class, and then over the PA announcement, our principal, Eric Pace, made an announcement saying that we are under a soft lockdown, but he didn't disclose any information. So my teacher, she was going on Google, seeing what was going on, and then she discovered that there was something unfolding at Temple Israel down the street from us. And then all of my peers around me, we were all like turning to each other like, what do we do or anything? And we were all just really scared, and we were just praying and hoping that everybody is alive and is A-okay.
Shay, before Heather jumps in here, I was reading something from you, and you were saying that we are West Bloomfield and Temple Israel strong. Absolutely sickening. No other way to put it. I'm a complete mess. When you wrote that, I mean, what were you thinking, especially when you say we are West Bloomfield and Temple Israel strong?
Yeah, so West Bloomfield Township has a unique bond with each other. We all, we're one big community where we all love each other, and we know we can get through anything because we're stronger and bigger and better together. And then Temple Israel is strong. Temple Israel is actually the largest Reform Judaism congregation in North America. So if we all come together as one, we know we can be stronger than anything.
Absolutely. What were the other students talking about as you guys were watching this unfold? It must have just been absolutely terrifying for all of you.
Oh my God. So we were all petrified because we were actually in my class, we were reviewing for a test on Monday, and we were all watching the live stream from you guys. I think it was from the helicopter. Yeah, we saw all of the medical personnel and all of the cars down Walnut Lake, and we were just beside ourselves. We had no idea what to do. we were just calling everybody we knew, basically.
Now, Shay, I want to ask you a question. I know you were 16, but I'm looking at your message here, and you said, I believe I was in one of the classrooms where you believe the fire happened in one of the classrooms where you had preschool in. So you were in preschool at Temple Israel. So this is really personal for you.
Yes. So I attended preschool there at Temple Israel from ages 2, 3, and 4. In that front classroom where I believe the fire ignited, but I haven't seen any images myself or anything, but I believe that's the classroom where I was in. That hits close to me.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what is that like for you to see that happening? What a place where you used to attend school?
It's just so disheartening. It's awful to see because I did not have this on my bingo card today. I never thought this would ever happen to my temple, but unfortunately, anti-Semitism is a thing, and we have to put an end to it.
Well, Shay, thank you. I'm glad you're safe. I'm glad you had your classmates to be there with you, and I'm glad no one was killed at your temple. And you are part of West Bloomfield Temple Israel Strong. Thank you so much for letting us hear your voice today.
Thank you, Carolyn and Heather.
Thank you. Let's go now to our Tiara Braddock. She is outside the JCC, which has been the reunification point today for all of the parents that have just been through this nightmare today.
Yeah, that's right, Heather. Nightmare is the word. No parent wants to get a call that there is an active shooter near their kids. Now, we are toward the edge of the campus. We're going to move slowly around and turn the camera around. So we are on the side of the street, but from my vantage point, I have been able to see some parents hugging their children, and then they have come out through their cars. So we haven't been able to stop them just yet, since they have been kind of getting out very quickly. Of course, they want to go home and be with their families and just hug their children. I just seen one little boy in his mom's arms, and it really makes you emotional thinking about what they've all been through. Here from Shay just now, no one thought that this was going to happen today, and no one wants to go through this, not a parent, not anyone. And I was just even talking to the husband of the woman who works at the JCC, and they were even shook up. You know, this is quite frightening for everyone in this community. No one wants to deal with anything like this. And now I did speak to Sam Bennett. He is the husband. Now, hopefully we do have some sound bites from that man who just described what he had thought when he got that call from his wife. Let's play that if we have it.
It's something that's always on my mind ever since October 7th. There's been a fear of that happening. And unfortunately, I think now we're at a time where it could go either direction, and it's just been a very scary time, and we just have to protect ourselves. And thankfully, Temple Israel has an incredible security team who I believe, from what I've been hearing, stopped the threat. And I think that's a testament to the people they chose to hire and the amount of money they chose to put into that.
And you know what? We're just getting word that we can head in. I believe there's going to be a press briefing, so I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to see what we can get more information. We are just getting waved in, which we have not been able to do since I've been out here. So I am going to go just so we can get some more information.
Thank you so much, Tiara Braddock, live for us out there right outside the Jewish Community Center, where we saw so many pictures of kids reuniting with their parents, and I'm sure they're going to let us know what's going on, and maybe all of the kids now are safely in the arms of their kids.
We'll be right back.
Protecting your tax dollars. Their investigations have helped change laws, spark reform, and get you the answers no one else could. When the truth hides, they shine the light. Watch New Investigations, weeknights on 7 News Detroit at 6. Have a story? Contact the 7 investigators at tips@WXYZ.com.
Gorman's invites you to our spring sale event, featuring our stunning collection of Bernhardt with savings of 50% off living rooms, dining rooms, and bedrooms. The spring sale, exclusively at Gorman's.
When you need longer-lasting body pain relief, try Aleve. Just one dose of Aleve provides pain relief for up to 12 hours.
from all types of body pain. Aleve, longer-lasting body pain relief.
Did you know insurance companies defend reckless drivers like these? Not only do they delay and deny your claim, but they defend the careless, reckless, or drunk driver that caused your accident in the first place. When you're hurt in an auto accident, don't let the insurance company treat you like junk. We fight and make the insurance company pay you every penny you deserve. That's the Bernstein Advantage. 1-800-CALL-SAM.
It's the Max Your Tax refund sales event at LaFontaine Chevy Buick GMC. Shop from over 3,000 new and GM certified pre-owned vehicles from 7 Michigan locations. Whether it's the reliability of a Chevy, the luxury of a Buick, or the power of a GMC, LaFontaine's got your ride. With leases from $150 a month and rates as low as